September 5th City Commission work session. We'll call this meeting to order, and if you'll join me as Jen leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, we'll go to presentations. Our first presentation is the Library Card Sign-Up Month for the month of September, and I will turn that over to Vice Mayor Twanga.
Now, who do we have here? Is there anyone else from the library that you wanted to invite up?
No, just me.
All righty then.
Everyone's working.
This is exciting because I know you and I talk about this every once in a while, don't we? Library Card Sign-Up Month. Whereas libraries play a crucial role in the education and development of children, from story times for preschoolers to college and career planning for high schoolers, fostering literacy and a love of reading. And whereas libraries are welcoming and inclusive spaces for people of all backgrounds to learn together and engage with one another across cultural, ethnic, and generational and economic lines, strengthening the social fabric of the community they serve. And whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity of access for all. And whereas libraries help people of all ages navigate the complexities of life, providing access to research, information, and governmental services that allow everyone to lead more productive and fulfilling lives. And whereas libraries contribute to a local strong economy by providing access to the technology and training that are critical to the success of job seekers, entrepreneurs, and students. And whereas in times of crisis, libraries and library professionals play an invaluable role in supporting their communities, both in person and virtually. And whereas a library card sparks creativity and empowers all people to explore new passions and interests and pursue a path of lifelong learning. And whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Now, therefore, I, John Torringa, by virtue of the authority invested in the mayor of the city of Dunedin, Florida, and on behalf of the entire City Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of September as Library Card Sign-Up Month in Dunedin and encourage everyone to sign up for their own library card today. Thank you.
Yay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Phyllis Gorshey, Library Director at your Dunedin Public Library. Library Card Sign-Up Month is an annual celebration aiming to spotlight the myriad of ways a library card can empower individuals and enrich communities. We encourage all our Dunedin residents to get a library card, and I just pulled up our numbers. Our card holder count is 26,000 people, so wow. Impressive in our community. And did you know that your library card expires every 3 years, so you may need to update your card. So please encourage, as Vice Mayor said, and he's an avid library user, come in, get your library card, update your library card, because libraries are not merely about books. We are a dynamic place that fosters creativity, inspires lifelong learning, community, and exploration. And your library card is your passport to the world. And at Dunedin Public Library, it is literally your passport to the world, as we became a passport acceptance facility in April, so you can get your passport at the Dunedin Public Library. You can also get access to cutting-edge technology, museum passes, birding backpacks, and seeds, just to name a few of our outstanding services. We're also celebrating this month with great programming for kids, teens, and adults, and with our Friends of the Library pop-up book sale. So pop on in on Friday, September 22nd, and Saturday, September 23rd, from 9:30 to 3 p.m. both days, and get access to amazing books at amazing prices that help support library programming. So stop in, visit us online, and check out all the wonderful resources from your Dunedin Public Library. And as always, thank you to our city, our Friends of the Library, our Library Foundation, and Advisory Committee for being so supportive of library staff and our service. And a patron just called me to compliment the outstanding service he received from a staff member. And I loved one of the things that he said, which I'm going to leave you with today, is that the library is the gem of our community. So thank you.
Awesome. Oh, come on, we'll stand up with you. Oh, I'll go this way.
We're good.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis, our favorite librarian. All right, our next presentation is the presentation of the AARP Age-Friendly Plaque. Nicole.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Nicole Delfino here to just do a brief overview of the AARP, and we have some guests here with us. Sally Hess, formerly from the Committee on Aging, like Prince, and then Michelle Sear from AARP. So just really quickly, I know we don't bring this to you very often, but we are a livable community. And these include essential features that allow residents of all ages and backgrounds to thrive. And these are some of the keystones of a livable community. So you'll see those outdoor spaces, transportation, civic participation, community support, and so on. With that, livable communities includes public spaces that benefit everyone. So we're not just talking about those that might be carrying an AARP card, but all of our residents and visitors. In addition, we just wanted to share our livability score, which this last year was 57. This is representative of the top half of communities in the United States, and then you can see how that was calculated with the various items or categories that they look at. And then finally, we had an action plan that was submitted in 2019. It was a 3-year action plan that resulted in a report that we compiled and submitted earlier this year. That report was attached to the agenda item and included 3-year plan goals. So there were 6 goals with various items listed under those goals, many which are part of our business plan as well. And you can see those here. And then finally, as we look ahead, we actually have some measurements assigned to those goals, and then looking at how we can kind of cross-pollinate the plan with other plans and initiatives in the city. And from here, I'll ask Sally and Michelle to come up. If you'd like, you can be at the podium. Sure.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Commission, thank you for having me. My name is Michelle Sear. I'm a staff member of AARP Florida, and I lead in partnership with our volunteers our education and outreach efforts here in the Tampa Bay area. On behalf of AARP Florida, we're here to acknowledge the City of Dunedin for its leadership in making your community an even better place to live for people of all ages and abilities. The City of Dunedin is one of 45 age-friendly communities in Florida and nearly 800 across the U.S. The AARP Age-Friendly State and Community Network also includes 10 states, including Florida. The age-friendly community process represents a commitment to improving the areas of community life in the built and social environment in which we live, work, play, and age. Today, we're here to celebrate a milestone accomplishment in your age-friendly journey, the completion of a 5-year cycle. Aligned with your EPIC strategic goals, we are particularly impressed with your transportation efforts to help people get around, and your improvement in play options as well as your recreation center activities and ongoing enhancements to access outdoor spaces such as the beaches. We're proud that Dunedin Public Library was a recipient of AARP's 2022 Community Challenge Grant, one of only 10 recipients in the state of Florida for 2022. This project added universal access picnic tables and the sidewalk snapshots around the library. It has been our pleasure to work with Nicole Delfino, Assistant to City Manager Bramley, as well as the Senior Advisory Group members, and in particular, Sally Hess, a long-term Dunedin resident committed to improving the lives of people of all ages and abilities. I'm pleased to present this plaque certificate today in recognition of the City of Dunedin for completing their first age-friendly cycle. We look forward to hearing and sharing about your continued age-friendly accomplishments in the next cycle and beyond.
Sally?
Can I have you guys step back a little bit more? One, two. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, and thank you for all your hard work, especially the Committee on Aging, because I know that they really worked hard on this item for a long time, and you as well, Nicole. We appreciate you being the lead project manager on our end for the continuation of a livable community. I'm sure that Commissioner Franny has something to say about this.
I'd love to. I mean, Committee on Aging and the city have a long history, I think, of trying to, probably started in early 2000s. Tom Anderson, former mayor, set an initiative to be the first elder-ready city in the state of Florida, and we were. And at that time, Governor Jeb Bush came to honor that. Then it became term communities for a lifetime. And of course, now we're with AARP for this designation. And I think it's important because what I've learned through all the years is that when you have that target goal of making yourself, ready for all ages, I mean, that's what you really do. You're targeting the retired populations, et cetera, but you're also providing for everybody. I mean, when you make it walkable for seniors, you make it walkable for everybody. When you provide all these little extras, you actually are just providing a more livable city overall. And then you're not leaving anybody behind. So it's, and of course, I would have to say that Peg Cummings, of course, early on, was the one that was the staff person with Committee on Aging that did the Elder Ready movement. But I'm very happy with how Sally and Committee on Aging have continued to really make these important goals on behalf of the city. So thank you.
I remember when we first installed the, you guys probably know if you've been in downtown Dunedin and crossed Douglas and Main, the talking crosswalks, they scare you a little bit when you've never experienced one. We have several of them around the city, but those talking crosswalks, it's a huge safety factor because, that light can be long and it tells you to wait about 1,000 times. Wait. And, I'm impatient, so I need that yelling at me. But I just love that we did that, and I'd love to see that everywhere. And that was just one of many things that we did. Anybody else have any comments?
Yes, I do.
Okay, hang on one second.
Yeah, so I think that's, what you all are doing for the elder community is just amazing, and it just epitophizes everything that's just so great about this town. It's just, it's awesome. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate the committee that we have here in the city as well. I know in the early 2000s, the first time that I visited, just to see what was actually happening with that committee, what a dedicated group of people. And a comment was made about the transportation, and I think that's just outstanding. I know with your organization, PSTA, that you represent for us, They have made some great strides in that area, and I know one of the things for the committee was how do we make sure these folks get around? We're currently doing a study right now, and we have someone in the contract, as I understand, to start looking at some transportation on demand. And I think it's really critical that not only do we offer things for some of our elder members of our community to do, but provide them the way to get there without any questions, so that there's no confusion where they're going and how they're going to get back. So I think that's a giant step. That's a step that I have supported since going to that very first meeting that I've ever gone to, and I want to make sure that we have that for our elderly as we move on, particularly when it comes to trying to get to areas that are difficult to get to. And we can provide some of that internally here in Dunedin, and then there's other groups that can support when someone has to go outside of Dunedin. So thank you for that comment about the transportation. Very, very important. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a wonderful reflection of who we are as a community, and a lot of the decisions that we make up here or even in the community with staff is what's the impact on Dunedin 30 years from now. And so the idea that we are certainly moving in the right direction, and what I really like about this whole process and this recognition today is that it's an age-friendly. It's not necessarily targeted at the elderly, that we are a community from 8 to 80. And so that's what this type of progress does for me. So this is just a wonderful, wonderful recognition of who we are as a commission, who we are as city government, and who we are as a community, and what is important to us. So this is just, it's a good day today. Thank you.
Thank you guys for all the hard work. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
One last comment. You might want to put in your report on livable social participation. One of the things I love so much about intergenerational Dunedin, and I don't know who gets the credit for the idea, but when the golf cart parades go around the horseshoe of Meese life, it is so awesome because all the people are loaded out there and we're going by in the golf carts, and I don't know who gets that credit, but it's now literally like a staple to the event, and it's just so Dunedin.
Well, I think it's the leadership of Dunedin Goes Karting that
That's just
decided that. I can't
Yeah,
say
so
which one, but maybe
Leslie
Jessica.
Beans, yeah.
Jessica. And of course, she's all about veterans-friendly type things as well, so.
But I think when Committee on Aging, when you do this kind of thing, it's contagious. People think like that, and I think that's what's important about it, so.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, citizen input. Anybody wishing to come forward and speaking on any topic that is not already on the agenda? If it is on the agenda, we will allow you to speak at that time. Seeing or hearing none, we'll come back to consent agenda. We've got a number of items on here. So with the approval of the minutes from March 2nd. Really? What happened?
Strategic.
No, I know, but what happened?
I'm not sure. It's a report more so than minutes.
Oh, okay.
Well,
It's just a long time. I mean, it's September.
Right, yeah, it took a while to get the minutes from the strategic planning session, and that is the minutes of that meeting.
Okay.
So that's why you're approving them.
Wow.
Can I make a comment now then? I was going to make it later, but since we're
Go right
coming in.
ahead.
Yeah, it is really just a summary, a very brief summary. And so minutes, I was going to make a comment and say this is, we really don't see what anyone really said, or we've not had a discussion then about this.
Right, it's not a verbatim.
Summary.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so March 2nd, July 13th, July 27th, that's the minutes for approval. Then there is a increase in purchase order amount for contracted services with Waste Pro USA for the processing of mixed recyclables. Then there's the Fourth Amendment to the Water Tower License Agreement with New Singular Wireless PCS. And there is a change order number 1 to the Loan Administration and Compliance Service for a State of Florida DEP revolving fund loan contract, and this is in regarding to the water treatment plant refurbishment project. Then there's amendment number 1 to the American janitorial contract for custodial services, and then there is the award of bid titled miscellaneous waterline fittings and repair parts rebid, as well as a manhole rehabilitation agreement with Vortex Services. Are there any items to be pulled?
I'd like to pull 2B, please.
2B is the increase in the purchase order for the mixed recyclables, okay. Can I only guess which one you want to pull?
I think you can guess.
Janitorial services?
Yes, 2E, thank you.
I know you guys way too well. Hang on, let me find it. Okay, 2E. Yes, sir.
I have minutes, just on the 727, just a brief comment.
727,
Yeah,
okay.
and then I have it listed by B, F, and G, so I'd have to go and look to see if we've done.
Okay, so the DEP revolving fund, that's D, and you said E, which is the janitorial.
And B, did you say?
Oh, B?
Yeah.
B, yeah, that's, okay, so
Yeah. that-
you
that-
said B what? Okay, list which ones? B, D, and E?
B, F, and G.
Oh, you want them all pulled? Wait a minute, give me which ones you want pulled?
No, I don't want all of them pulled.
Okay.
I said B,
B,
F, and G.
okay, F and G. So Mo wants E, who wanted D? Did anybody want D?
You wanted B.
B, but not D. Okay, gotcha. Jeff, which one do you want pulled?
I just think.
You
that-
want D pulled?
I think
Then
D
we'll
is-
have all of
I think
them.
D is just feeling very lonely.
No, because then there's the water tower license that hasn't been pulled.
No, ma'am, I'm fine. Actually,
got nothing.
The ones that have already been pulled is what I was thinking, so I'm good.
Okay, let's have fun with consent agenda. Anybody watching needs to know consent agenda is stuff that's usually already in our budget, and it doesn't normally require a lot of conversation, and we've chosen to take that in a different direction today. All right, so right now, what we have to be approved, let's get that out of the way, are the minutes for 3-2 and 7-13, as well as the Fourth Amendment to the water tower license, and the change order on the water treatment plant refurbishment project loan contract. Okay, can I have a motion
So
to
moved.
approve those things? Okay.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Franny and Vice Mayor Torga. All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak to those items? Seeing or hearing none, we'll come back to the commission. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, then we'll go to the July 27th meeting minutes. Vice Mayor.
Well, in the reading a few minutes ago, I ended up closing my computer, but I just wanted to make a point. There is a section there that talks about the Veterans Park, and someone had talked about perhaps naming it the Roebling Park, and I had made some serious conversation about that and said I'd like to see this be a Veterans Park for all veterans, and probably named Veterans Park. There could be a Roebling section in there, but I don't want to make a major issue out of that. I just wanted to make it clear that would be my recommendation, would be to name it the Dunedin.
Okay, so
Veterans
is there
Park.
anything about the minutes themselves, though, that you're commenting on?
Yeah, that's what I'm commenting on.
Oh, okay.
It implies that I found not only intriguing Roebling, but that's because, of course, I
Okay.
worked on a Roebling issue here for the city, the LVT. But I would rather, and I said I'd rather have that be a Veterans Park rather than a Roebling Park.
Gotcha. Okay.
Named.
All right, what we're going to do is try to approve them all together instead of individually, I think, if that's okay. That's not a problem, is it?
No, you can take them all together.
Never mind, let me, you know what?
There's just
I'm going to
several,
do
so
it
it might be
individually.
easier.
Yeah, you're probably right. Let's just, okay. So can I have a motion to approve the 7:27 regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Walker and Commissioner Franny, thank you. Anybody from the public wish to speak to these minutes? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, then we have the increased purchase order amount for the contracted services with Waste Pro for mixed recyclables. Rob, I believe you were the first one to pull that, right? Did you just have a question, or did you want a full presentation?
Well, it doesn't have to be the full presentation. Actually, it's probably more of a question, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
So, one thing that, I've been surprised about is just, thank you. Thank you. One thing I've been surprised about is the increasing cost of disposal.
Yeah.
And obviously with some of the issues, and I know that it's not directly related to the increasing cost, but the issues to our city, our neighbor to the south had with their recycling program, I'm just kind of curious as to kind of your perspective on how things are going with this, and really to kind of get down to, why is the cost increased almost $200,000? And I know you budgeted it, that's great, but I just want to kind of get a quick overview on that, if you will.
Hey, Sue, maybe you can talk a little bit about what happened in China a couple of years ago, which is what really threw us over the edge.
I think Bill's probably better to talk about that.
Okay.
We do have some industry representatives here as well, if you want to have perspective from that, and Chuck on the contract. So they're here as well.
All right, so Bill, why don't you just talk a little bit about what happened with China a couple of years ago, because I know this is before Rob got on here and we started experiencing, it was like, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
That's correct, Mayor, and I'll be brief with it. Yeah,
Because we used to make money on our recyclables. That is not happening anymore.
They used to be the biggest, China was the biggest consumer of recyclables for many countries that produced this commodity types of recyclables. And once they stopped, it was called the national sword policy, where they got much more strict around what they were accepting and not really allowing a player in the market. So the market really it took a nosedive on the valuability of how valuable those material types were. So it put a hurt on the industry as a whole, on the economic side of it, with how valuable recyclables are in the open market. Our program, to narrow it down in Dunedin, like most Pinellas County, is that we have mixed recycling programs, which has a cost to sort and process and make available to the open market, to head out in the open market what you could sell on the open market. So what we're asking for today is that we're asking for the cost for this year to be able to pay for the processing, which is based on a very variable, unknown element, which is the market driven. And that ask is approximately $195,000 for the reason that, unlike last year the markets were healthy. I wasn't here to ask for more money because our processing fees were none last year. We made three quarters, we made some proceeds. 1 quarter we were net zero. But unlike the market took a dive this year, and I'm anticipating the close of this last quarter for us is that we need $195,000 to pay those processing fees for the sorting and the baling of those materials, separating of those materials.
Before you ask a question, I think it's also important to talk about the Pinellas County Long-Range Solid Waste Plan and where we are with supplying a MRF, and maybe you can, in case Rob doesn't know, explain what a MRF is.
Absolutely, Mayor. Over the last year and a half, other municipalities have been in a similar situation as us, as we all have. Nobody's immune to this added cost. But in Pinellas County, we're an unusual county, in my opinion, on how debris, trash, and recyclables are collected. We're, if you will, 24 municipalities who are responsible for those debris types. So, a good portion of those 24 have in-house collectors. Some have contracts directly with privates. And then there's a good chunk of residents that are unincorporated. So in Pinellas County, you have a lot of players who are doing this work. And it's, to a degree, it's an open market. We're all trying to fend for ourselves. And over the last 2 years, a couple of municipalities have really amped up the it's request with the county to please give us some support. We have done that through our group, which is Technical Management Committee that I sit on, that represents those collection experts in municipalities and in the privates, but also with other elected, our city manager sits in with the administrator of the county because we've asked for that help. And what the county has done over the last year is look to give us help by bringing in a MRF, because our region in itself is under-factoried, if you will. A MRF is a processing plant for the recyclables. And in Pinellas County, there's one MRF, and it's down by 118th. It's down by the Tropicana Field. Then there's other MRFs in Hillsborough County, Tampa, as well as in Sarasota, and one in Polk. So if you look at it from a standpoint that we are under, we don't have adequate capacity to process it. So what the county has done, they went out and they tried to give us relief, and they put a bid out there to see if there was a private out there who would help build a MRF, or build a MRF, if you will, and do that work in the county to give us more capacity. That bid didn't get any players. They didn't get any responses. And what the hook was at is, since we're all in our own agreements, was trying to get everyone to give the assurance or the guarantee that we would provide our materials for this contract, for this bidder, awarded bidder. And it wasn't in the agreement. So when they didn't get a response, they're back to square one, but there is work going on behind the scenes with the county on that. They haven't given up. They're going to be restructuring another bid to go out, and then also doing an analysis of what it would cost to build one themselves, to where we all have a stake in. So really, it's that what the county is doing right now as part of their master plan was that to identify the need to have a MRF, or to have a private agreement for somebody else to do that work for us, is pretty tricky, but it's being worked on. Our concern for Dunedin, being up in the northern part of the county, is where are you going to build this? Where is that private going to be? Because it's all cost, transportation costs, getting the recyclables to that plant. So it's not on hold. It's still being worked on at the county level, and we have a stake at that.
And I'd just like to add that we are participating actively in not just the suggestion and the restructuring of the bid, but also in the ordinances that they're passing. And they realize this, and our own private contractor that we bid and was awarded publicly, there are assurances that our recyclables are in fact being processed correctly. There's checks and balances in that contract, as well as accountability through cameras and reports. And so we are checking not only the totals, but also that they are properly being processed.
Well, I think to add to that, just for your information, Rob, I think because we don't have a MRF and because it's so expensive to do the recyclables, I think that's why some cities, you're finding that they went to, waste energy burning, because it was just cheaper. And I mean, when this thing happened with China, what they started talking about was cities were going to walk away from recyclables. And thank God most have not. We stood here very strongly and said, no, we're going to try to figure this out. It still may be expensive, but it's the right thing to do for the community, and we keep working with the county. Anyway, I took up your time. I just wanted you to hear kind of that background so you would know that.
Yeah, no, that's good. So the question I would have, I think what I heard you say, though, is that the municipalities in the area here, for the most part, all of us have different agreements with the various contracting
That's correct.
folks. And has there been any discussion at all with regards to trying to consolidate this under a county-type contract, or?
Yes, and in fact, I mean, that's some of the discussion that's ongoing. The county does not have collections in their program currently, and haven't been interested in the past in doing that. So there wasn't a lot of support to, have us all band together. But there is some interest there, and they are listening to us and our feedback, our cities.
I'd see economies of scale with that sort of arrangement, because again, it's a very competitive market. And then the other question I would have on that is so I think I heard you say that the municipalities, I mean, this is, $195,000. It's comparable to the other increased costs that other municipalities are paying, right?
Yes, that's correct. And it is capped in our contract at 3%.
Okay.
We have a processing costs are per ton, what it costs per ton. Our cap is $85 a ton, and it gives some context to that. There is a municipality whose last agreement was just approved a couple of weeks ago. Their cap is 120. So we're in I like our position we're in right now because the $85 is that cap. And right now, how we're tracking this year is we're paying approximately $65 a ton processing, which again, it's compared to others, I like where we're situated.
Yeah, okay. Oh, great. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
Any questions from you? No. Any questions down here?
Yes, I asked to have it pulled for a couple of reasons, but the main purpose was I looked at the numbers and I saw the one name, and then I went and got inside of all of this and saw what we're really spending on this program since it started. The date, I think it started in 2017, and where we are today, and how it's almost jumped to $1 million now. So I wanted to bring it up and just say that this isn't really necessarily about the contract. This is about the concept. And you covered a few of the things there, but I'd like to have us have a conversation sometime in the near future, perhaps just part of a work session, part of a workshop or a small workshop, just as to where are we going with this? Where does this take us? Not only short term, but intermediate term and then long term regarding recyclables. The concept has changed because of the costs and because of the China situation, and that occurred some time ago. So that's what I'd like to see, and see how you feel about this based on this presentation today.
We'll be happy to provide that and, try to make it as brief as possible, but understandable, and what we can see in the future based on industry. I'm happy to do that.
Well, you just gave us a pretty good overview. At what point do you think any of what you just said might change? Like, I know you're working with this other group. Like, what do you see? I mean, do you feel like, okay, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, you're going to have more of a, like...
Two things are in the short term that we're working on. One of them is we're working with the county, all the municipalities and all the collectors are going to do another analysis of our recyclable programs where we're going to divert trucks to the county and they're going to analyze and they're going to do weights and they're going to re-examine everyone's contamination rate. That's important because contamination shows how valuable or unvaluable your waste stream is, your recyclables. That's happening, and we're going to revise that. Right now, we're currently 17%, but that contamination rate, but that number varies. The other hurdle is a little bit taller for us to get by, is to get everybody to play together and give the assurance that we will send our recyclables to this next contractor, whether it is a county-built MRF or a third-party private who provides a MRF, that we will all use it. That's the big hurdle. The assurances that you're pretty much giving the feedstock to sustain this sorting facility.
So those are the short term and the long term, so probably close to a year before substantial changes are made based on the analysis from the short term project, and then long term really depends on the changes to the ordinance and whether or not the county decides to, invest in the MRF.
So Jennifer, what do you know?
Well, I know that it will require an interlocal agreement, obviously, with the county, and the county will require that all of our recycling is sent to that MRF. And that's a heavy lift because some of the cities don't want to do that.
So at what point do you think you might be ready to talk about it?
I think probably second quarter of the next fiscal year, we'll be able to make some progress and give you an overview of where we are specifically.
Okay, do you want to add it to the list then?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, did I hear you correctly that our contamination rate is 17%?
That's correct.
And how does that compare with other local municipalities or the region, throughout the region?
We're one of the higher ranked, less contaminated on that
You
analysis.
just said high and less, so you confused the heck out of me.
Well, we're the least we're one of the least contaminated
Better language.
programs. There you go. Our number was low compared to many others.
Okay, and while 17% is considered low compared to others, do we have a goal? Do we know where we want to be? Do we know where the industry wants us to be?
0. I'm teasing.
Well,
I'm teasing.
Yeah. Really, I'm happy with that number. We can always do better, but again, that's where that produces much more valuable feeds, commodities for resale. We're below the industry average is approximately 25%, so we're below that. And it's a fluid number. It fluctuates throughout the year. So, a goal would be much less than that.
okay. And our relationship with Waste Pro, which I'm not challenging at all. So thank you guys for being here. Our contamination rate is 17%. Is that the percentage that's used when it gets to Waste Pro and as far as their calculations are concerned?
What do you mean?
Well, does our recycling get commingled with other municipalities? Or does it stand on its own when it gets to Waste Pro?
If it's all right with you, I'd like to ask Bob Tenhoff, who is he's vice president of this region, and he's here today. If he could give it just a quick understanding of that.
Come on down.
Come on down.
It's Talking Tuesday.
Great.
Sorry.
Great.
And that was not
Right.
meant
No,
towards
no,
you. It's meant towards all of
it's
us. It's
everybody.
just one, it's after the holiday
Right.
weekend.
And if you could
We're
also
pent up.
acknowledge where your MRF is so that the public has an idea of the transportation miles.
Sure. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor,
morning.
Commissioners. Our MRF is in Sarasota. It's right on the south end of Manatee County, so we haul it across the bridge. So to answer your question, is it commingled with everything else? Yes, it is. So what we do is we go through a composition study, which was done a year and a half ago or so.
2020.
Okay, so it was done, and they're getting ready to do another one, and that's what we base everything on. So your 17% is a really good number. So I echo what Bill said there. In reality, the real cost here is whatever the commodities are, and Bill and I talk about this every month. We have a email exchange goes out, and so, what he was talking about, the China connection. But what we're seeing is we're starting to see more mills in the United States. We're seeing a reaction to that. So we're finally starting to see, and every month, I think every email I send to Bill is like, I'm hopeful, we think, so there's a lot of just guessing that goes on, but we're starting to see fiber start to get a little bit more normalized. And fiber's your big one, right? So everybody knows about Amazon, everybody knows how this works. So we're seeing the fiber come back. Last year, we really saw a dip in mixed paper for a while, which includes your newspapers and stuff like that. That seems to have stabilized. In the last couple of months, for whatever reason, we've seen plastics really decline. So is that a long-term deal? Your guess is as good as mine. However, plastics don't normally do that. We're starting to see plastics come back. The big one leading the plastics plunge was PET, which is your water bottles and stuff. So, in reality, I look at last year, your commodity, if I average it out over the whole year, what you were sending us was worth about $120 a ton, hence you don't have a charge. Right now, we're running on an average of about $78 right now. So, and August being not a good month. So, and it results in an average of about 65 a ton processing. So it's still a really good deal, as I guess everything's relative, right? So that's kind of where we end up where we're at today.
Okay. And you had mentioned fiber, newspaper, plastics. What are the top resellable products?
From a value standpoint, aluminum has always been the top. So aluminum is up there. It's actually averaging about $1,200 a ton. between 12 and 1,500. Your HDPEs, which is your laundry detergent bottles, things like that, they've been up there, and your milk jugs have been up there. The real standard, though, is still cardboard, because that's the majority of what you get. It's the majority of what people put. So cardboard is the one that seems to be really getting addressed right now, and with the mills and other mills coming online. Just, the United States was actually producing more recycling than they were actually able to consume. So we had to ship it. So now we're getting to a point where this is going to be normalized. It's out there a ways, but the cost to process a ton of recycling is anywhere between 115 to 150, depending on the plant. So, that's going to be standard no matter what happens here in the long term.
And what role does the contamination percentage play into the processing costs and or the aftermarket return for what we get?
So the value, your value of your product's a little bit higher because of the contamination, and it's really the plant is looking to, that's figured into our cost per ton. So that 120 to 150 depends on what you're processing, right? So the more contaminated stuff that you run through, the longer it takes to process it, and the more difficult it is. So we're seeing, as Bill said, 20 to 25% is pretty normal in our industry for single stream. So for you to be below 17, which is really the mark that you want to see in a good program, it's a good program. It's a great program. To be at 17% is actually, it sounds like a big number, but it's a good number.
But is that our goal?
Goal is always to be, as Bill said, 0. I mean, that would be a great goal. And you got to remember what is that shows up as a contamination. Could be as simple as, telling people not to put it in bags anymore, right? Sometimes people put their recycling in a plastic bag. That makes it through the entire line. That's going to go right out the backside. Contamination can happen if it's wet. If it rains a lot and people's lids aren't closed, it sticks together and some of it will make it through the line. So I don't know if reasonably you're ever going to get 100%, all the way to 0. But, we've seen programs where, it gets there, but 17%, you're well on your way.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Matt?
Thank you, Commissioner. You're good.
Thank you.
So I think what we've just heard here, too, from that gentleman that just spoke was how many people are going paperless. I mean, I might file something every 6 months. That's what I have an iPad for. Even when it's a big agenda, or a big conference kind of thing, I don't print it out. Just give me the agenda, and I'm good. And when I'm able to toggle better on an iPad, I probably won't need the agenda. And people are drinking less out of a water bottle. Soda cans now would be nice if we get rid of people drinking out of soda cans, but then you're going to get the big plastic bottle. You're going to get something. So, I mean, hopefully the goal is to not have to deal with recyclables at all. I mean, that is the goal. And that's why people are going paperless, along with technology, and that is why people are drinking less water bottles, because it's bad for the environment. So hopefully someday we won't even be dealing with recycling. Anyway, okay, so I need a motion to approve this agreement.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Walker. Second. Commissioner Franny, thank you. Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we have the American Janitorial Contract, an amendment for custodial services. Commissioner Franny, did you have a question or a full presentation?
No. I guess I just wanted to ask a question.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I asked this question to Jennifer. I didn't have a chance to talk with our Director of Library and Director of Recreation Parks, they're usually the big users of that. But I assume they've been fairly happy with the janitorial services, since they have the major facilities, they have the public coming through?
We have been happy with this. Actually, we've seen a lot less complaints with this vendor. Until recently, they've had some staff changes, and we have been focused on getting compliance and getting feedback as well from these other areas. And I think the library, actually Phyllis left, but yeah, that is one of our, she's very vocal. They're very good at reporting when things don't happen. And also we have a person dedicated, which we had a shift in the hours so that she can be out there when they're out there and be more proactive about catching some of these things. So I think that right now we just have a little spike, but we are on top of it. Our contract is a good contract. We just are looking at some of the, compared to the complaints in the past year, they're spiking right now, but we are addressing that.
I don't recall what the number was if we were to bring this back in-house. Does anybody remember that number?
It was around 700,000, I thought. It was substantial.
So it's equal.
I think it was
This
20
contract, 700,000.
I don't remember
20
exactly what it was.
positions.
No, it wasn't equal the last time we talked about it. It definitely wasn't. I just don't know what that number is. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, I just,
No, I don't know, but, I mean, I don't know when the last time you talked about it, but obviously there's been inflation, and we have a new city hall, so that's a change in scope of service that you'd have to consider.
well, and plus we have a position that coordinates this, so you would take this contract cost and the cost of that position and say, how could we, do this ourselves? And I'm not saying that's the right way to go, but Sue, and I'm saying this as much for Commissioner Walker too, who hasn't been here through this, but, ever since the city got rid of custodial years ago, 20-some years ago, not unlike a lot of public sectors, and then they went contractual, and a lot of the service in a lot of communities has been garbage, literally like not good. And so, and you have these great facilities and you're not really taking care of them. So you're saving a lot of money for not very good service. And who are you kidding along the way, right? So my point is we always should be comparing these contract and services against what we could do ourselves when we know we had a great internal custodial staff that we could control a lot more.
Right, and I most of you probably aren't aware, but of course Jennifer is. This year, we will be implementing basically that analysis and the ability to have that analysis through implementation of the work order system, planning versus actual tracking of that and comparing, and it will involve service levels. You don't compare different service levels and the costs that's like apples and oranges. You have to have apples and apples to compare that. So we will be setting that up and comparing that all the time to all of our services. There'll be a matrix of deciding which services we target first, and we certainly this will be part of that. Always providing the lowest cost with the highest service level is the goal. And so with that business analysis, and the analysis, we will be able to bring that information back to you.
Great. And so is this a one-year contract?
No, this is a 3-year with a 2-year renewal, and I think this is, 24 is going to be our 3rd year.
The third year.
Yeah.
So actually, next year, we'd decide whether we would do an
Exactly.
additional 2-year renewal.
Right.
So actually, timing's good. Yeah, so, my only comment, and I'm being consistent with this, is that we always keep that in our mind. What does it cost us to do it ourselves compared to the service levels that we would get? And because I would expect we'd do that against any contractor if we had multiple bidders. And we ought to be one of those bidders, because we know the service level is always going to be better if we do it ourselves. So the question is, what's the cost differential?
If we write good specs, it should be the same. Really, we should be able to have comparable service levels. And it'll be up, of course, to this body, but generally doing contract versus in-house comparison. If it's within 5%, it's not usually worth the cost to change it. But this service is one that doesn't require like equipment gearing up it to a great deal, so, but it would require additional positions. So either way, we'll bring it, before, provide it to Jennifer, and she'll bring it to y'all as to what choices you want to make. But we'll at least give you the facts so that you have something to look at and decide upon.
And so Sue is, and we've discussed this a lot, is making a data-driven decision on janitorial. And and that's part of our strategic planning process as well. It's just being able to track those work orders and be able to compare apples to apples to find out exactly where we are. So I'm excited about, this is our first foray into that data-driven decision. I'm excited about it.
I think it's great. And of course, Sue, you have experience with another public
does,
entity that we know about. They got rid of their custodial. It was kind of laughable in terms of the service level. But again, people were like, oh, we're never going to go back. It would cost too much money, even though it was laughable, the service level. So I just want to be intellectually honest about the decision. And it sounds like you're going to be doing all the right things to do that. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the custodial contract? No? Okay, anybody? All right, then can I have a motion to approve the amendment number 1 to the custodial services
So moved.
contract?
Second.
Commissioner Franny and Commissioner Walker. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, then we have the miscellaneous water line fittings and repair rebid. I believe that was you, Commissioner, or Vice Mayor Twanga?
Yes, it was, yes.
Okay, did you just have a question?
I have 2 questions,
Okay.
and I just want some very brief awareness for anyone that may be listening or would like to know how we spend this amount of money, $300,000, for example, in this case, all of which is good. You want me to go ahead and start off?
Yep.
Okay, so first of all, the main question is, we've got a bid here. We ended up with three folks supplying these items. Do we use these with our own personnel, or do we combine this with any bid that we may have?
No, this is what our own staff uses to maintain the water system primarily the distribution system.
Thank you. So this stays within our control and our business. And then second of all, it's really neat to see that we are acquiring this stuff for inventory, but also that the people realize that this is a very costly thing to continue with, and it's necessary. And so we have to keep this. Do you have any idea of what our inventory might be of a product like this?
You mean the on-hand inventory?
Yes.
It's around $400,000 in water.
So this is a...
You need to turn on your microphone.
You said $400,000
Yes.
inventory, great. So this is sort of a big step back up to fulfill that requirement within the inventory.
Yeah, these are our annual estimates for how much we're going to use for repairs out in the city for water line issues. And we use about that volume every year, pretty much.
Thank you.
Anything else? Vice Mayor, anything else? Okay. Any questions from anybody? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the miscellaneous repair items?
So moved.
Okay, Vice Mayor Twarnga, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Franny. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then we have the manhole rehabilitation. Commissioner Twarnga, or Vice Mayor Twarnga, was that you that pulled that too?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the manhole covers, or not covers, but the manholes, I had an interesting conversation with the city manager about this. So we're looking at rehabbing 30 of them.
Correct.
Do you have any idea of how many we have in the city? And what does it mean when you rehab a manhole?
Okay, we have approximately 2,600 that we maintain. There's more private manholes than that, and I knew the number 2 weeks ago, and I've forgotten it since then, but 2,600 that the city maintains. And what you do is, these are typically either brick or precast concrete and it's literally a opening that's big enough for a person to get in and get down into the sewer pipes or to put equipment in there or something. And over time, either the grout between the bricks fails, or the concrete itself gets eaten up by the sewer gases or something. So what we do is we go in and seal this up to make it watertight anywhere where water is leaking, and then we recoat it to give it more structure so that it has that life and it's not adding and contributing to the water that's getting into the sewer system. And these are anywhere from about 3 feet to 18 feet deep. So you can imagine the amount of area that they have to cover and seal up and keep watertight.
This is an important part of the city that we don't see very often, and that's a huge number, 2,600,
Yeah.
and we're doing 30 of them. And the determination is made, obviously, through inspection.
Correct.
Probably some random inspections, but certainly when
It's organized.
when you have a plan to go through certain amount of them, and then you have to check those that somebody determines there's a problem. So having only 30 of them is not a huge number out of 2,600. But it's a great thing. It's a great thing, and you don't want failure on those. They close the street, close the sewer system.
Many are in the middle of the street. Not all of them, but many are, and that adds to the wear and tear too. I mean, a live load on something obviously impacts how long its service life is.
So thanks to our staff for this.
Anybody else have any questions about the manholes? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the manhole rehabilitation agreement?
So moved.
Vice Mayor, Commissioner Walker, anybody from the public wish to speak to these items? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, and then we have the action items, any proposed changes to the September 19th agenda. Sorry, I've lost my place here. Just pull it back up. There we go. Okay, so we have public art recognition, a change order, a couple change order. Wow, we have a huge consent agenda. So I'm going to beg all of you to make sure you get your questions answered because it's huge. I mean, when I say it's huge, it goes all the way to K on the next September or next meeting. We've got action items on, again, loan agreement. We've got our calendar, so let's make sure we double check that. And then we have an update on our golf cart micro-mobility infrastructure plan. I can see Greg will be there, and I hope Eric will be there. Any changes? No? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Franny and Commissioner Walker. Anybody from the public? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so let's take a quick break before we get into our business survey results and our charter review committee. All right, we'll take a little 5-minute break. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, to our Tuesday, September 5th work session. We're going to go on to workshop items, and our first item to discuss is the 2023 business survey results. Jennifer, did you have any opening?
I don't, Mayor. I think I'll hand it straight over to Nicole.
Okey doke. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Nicole Delfino here, Assistant to the City Manager, together with Ann Watine from Research Data Services to just do an overview and present the results of the 2023 Business Survey. So I will jump right in, and if you all have questions, if you want to ask them, before we move on to the next slide, we can make sure we address any of your questions. So just to go over what we're going to take a look at today, the survey stats for the 2023 survey, the findings, and then our next steps. With the 2023 survey, again, similar to what we did with the citizen survey, was a close duplication of the actual survey itself, the body of the survey. We did make some adjustments as we reviewed with you earlier this year, which kind of threw off some of the numbering. But we tried to keep, for similarity and comparison purposes, a lot of the questions similar. There were some changes that we did make to move from open-ended questions to kind of a multiple choice, so to speak, which Ann will talk about a little bit more. The survey was approximately 30 questions. It included demographic questions as far as types of business and where people, where businesses are located. The survey ran for 8 weeks. It started in May and then ended in July. As far as delivery of the survey, we did several methods, again, similar to the citizen survey. Ann and her company did a direct email campaign through their list that they procured. She can talk a little bit more about that if you would like. I had a list of businesses locally that I also direct emailed several times. We shared the survey through the Chamber of Commerce, who shared it through their email and their newsletter. We posted it on our website, and then also did social media sharing and posting. As far as the sample size, you can see here we received a few less than we did in the 2020 survey. Sorry. We had 147 respondents, and then Ann, if you want to speak on the confidence and margin of error, we can review that quickly.
So I do want to, in addition to our database, we purchased 2,000 additional emails that we added and sent to. And for context, according to the Dunedin business licensing, there are about 1,400 businesses. According to the Census Bureau's registered establishments, business establishments in the city of Dunedin, there's 1,028 in the most recent data available. So the 147 surveys that we got represent 10 to 15% of Dunedin businesses, depending on which number that you look at. So when I say we added 2,000 emails, that's more than the number of businesses that there are. Some of that is having multiple emails per business as we try and get to that person that we needed to talk to. Before we went through and tabulated these results, we went through and looked at very carefully whether we were getting the same person responding multiple times, and only had that happen once. So we did this original survey in 2020, and right smack in the middle of that survey period, the shutdown order for COVID happened. So I think part of the reason that we had more surveys then than we had now is that was a time that for businesses was very uncertain, and also that they weren't quite as busy as they are now. So I think part of that is a reflection not in us reaching out and touching fewer people. We definitely had broader reach, but just in businesses being busier, which is actually a good thing. If you had an infinite population, or which isn't possible, but if your population were bigger than 50,000, then the statistics would say, if you crunch through all of the numbers, would say that you would need 384 surveys in order to have a statistically representative sample of that population. As your population gets smaller, there is a finite population correction, which is statistical term, but what it means is if you had a population of 100, obviously you wouldn't need 382 surveys to have a representative sample of those 100 people. So the finite population correction corrects for that smaller sample size. The other thing that controls what you need in order to say that your results are statistically representative is attitudinal gravitation. What that means is if we were putting this in terms of an election and 50% of the people were supporting John Doe and 50% of the people were supporting Jane Doe, you would need more surveys in order to accurately predict the outcome of that election. But if 90% of the people were supporting John Doe and only 10% of the people were supporting Jane Doe, you would need very few surveys to accurately predict the results of the election. So those two things combined mean that this sample size, particularly given the reach and all the ways that we touch this market, is representative and yields statistically accurate results within the 5% plus or minus level of confidence, which is industry standard for research.
Thank you, Ann. So before we move on, we're going to start to get into the actual data of the survey. So did you all have any questions up to this point?
Okay, questions?
Mayor, yes, if I can. And you might have answered it, but I just was curious that the survey period between 2020 and 2023 was smaller.
It was. We moved the survey window later, thinking that maybe if we got outside of the height of season, that would be an easier time for people to respond. We never intended for the survey window to be as long as it was in 2020. It was because of all of the disruption of the shutdown. And we actually left the survey up for almost a week, longer than we intended to this time as well, to catch any last-minute people. Because as we're messaging, we're putting in our reminders that things are close, because people are like, yeah, I'll do it later. So we gave people 6 spaced out reminders over that period of time. And as we got closer to the end, we said, here's going to be the cutoff. And then we extended that for 5 days longer than we had said. We left everything open to catch last minute responders. So it was intended to be about 8 weeks last time as well, just we shifted because of everything that was going on.
And you could see from the numbers, I mean, even with an additional almost 20 days, you only gained 9 more survey respondents between the 2 years. And typically a survey, we like to see them a little bit shorter. We want to put it out there, push hard, campaign, get people to respond, and then move on. So.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll get into, oh, sorry.
Any questions over here? Okay.
All right. We'll likely be going back and forth here quite a bit. So as we get into the kind of just the overview of the findings, one of the first questions was, how do you rate Dunedin as a place, and a place to operate a business, a place to work, overall image, quality of life, and so on and so forth here. We did add a new category, overall aesthetics, which you can see in 2020 didn't have a rating. So you can see across the board, we're pretty high as far as our ratings. There's some shifts between the 2 years, but nothing overly significant here as far as those changes. One of the things that I did notice, and I know Ann will expand on this, but in several of the categories, I saw shifts in the in the very satisfied jump a little bit as opposed to the combination of very satisfied and satisfied. So where one may have gone up and very satisfied, that explains a little bit of the changes. So overall, the businesses.
This piece.
Go ahead. Sorry. The businesses, we've got a 91 satisfaction rate with city services. And Ann, if you want to add anything here.
Yes, absolutely. So that number is actually like 0.4% different than what we saw in 2020. None of the changes that you're seeing are statistically significant, which does not mean that you're not doing better at achieving your objectives. It means that when you're getting ratings of 97%, that there isn't room for, big statistically significant upward shifts. So the fact that you're maintaining those very high levels of satisfaction is really important. One of the biggest upward shifts in terms of, as Nicole was mentioning, the excellent as opposed to combined excellent and very good ratings is in safety, and the safety number for excellent alone went from 60%, 59.6, to 67.6. So that was a big upward shift.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Franny.
Sorry, your chart, the 2023 results should be excellent/good, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to just be clear. I mean, I would have loved it if it was just excellent.
Just excellent,
Anyway,
yes.
That's it. That's all I wanted.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor, if I can. I just noticed that according to this slide, that we're in the 90s or upper 90s on most categories, except for quality of new development. And I just want to know if you could speak to that.
Well, and that has to do with people's concerns about new projects coming in and whether or not they meet with the character of the rest of the city. The same sorts of concerns that we heard in the resident surveys are expressed here. But overall, it seemed like, one of my takeaways is that overall it seemed like there was less concern about the direction of new development, the amount of new development, things that we heard very much in 2020 in both the resident and commercial surveys. Here we heard less. So.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. When it comes to top-rated city services, I kind of broke this information down into what we're looking at as, the very high ratings, and then we'll look later at some that aren't quite as high, but still looking pretty good. I know that the library is no longer here, but the fire, as you can see, 100% as far as satisfaction rating, and then across the board, again, very high ratings in all of these. I know that in theory, not necessarily all services, but these concepts, utility, police, public works, care for environment, business opportunities, and then economic development efforts, we did see a little jump there.
So Chief Parks has been insufferable since he saw the results of this survey.
So there's a little competition between fire and library as to who is the highest rated.
Oh, God.
Well,
I don't know, solid waste might edge them out this next year.
Yeah. Library we asked in the residential survey. Right. We didn't ask it here. We also didn't ask it, I believe, in 2020. So they it's not that they were rated lowly, they just weren't rated. Utilities, to give them a little fuel for the fire, in terms of the very satisfied score, went from 44 to 53.8. So that was another place where we saw a pretty significant movement and shift in the very, very satisfied people.
Okay, any questions on this? No? Go ahead.
Okay. And then as far as satisfaction with city efforts, we looked at a number of items that impact businesses: litter collection, clean streets, lighting, attracting visitors, retaining businesses, or attracting new businesses. So the way that this question was, how satisfied are you with these items? And then the second part, being what are the top most, or I think we really asked the top three most important for your business. But I provided you the top 5 as far as how they kind of laid out. So the top 5 most important things to businesses is business retention, growth, attracting visitors, of course, easing traffic congestion, which I think dropped a few notches, and then also creating attractions and events, which obviously then would attract visitors.
And this is another instance where we saw we didn't see particularly significant shifts in the scores between the answers this time and the answers in 2020, although there was generally an upwards drift in all of these numbers. We did see growth in all of the very satisfied scores. So,
And I do want to point out the scale, obviously, of this chart starts at 75%. So I know it might look like one is a little bit less, but we're still in the 80s or above with these rates.
Any questions?
Okay. So I mentioned that in some of the categories we saw a little less as far as we're no longer in the 80s or the 90s. So I'm calling these opportunity areas, but again, they're still pretty high satisfaction. So we've got public transportation, traffic, building and permitting, affordable housing, and then we specifically asked parking this time, which I think was more of a combined.
we didn't ask.
We didn't
last
ask,
time.
yeah. So obviously, as you can see, one of the biggest drops we saw here was affordable housing. I don't think that should be a shock or surprise to anybody, given the changes in our economy and the housing market. Obviously, there's, our Senate president this year, their top priority was affordable housing. That's something that we're all been trying to address. So I know that's a pretty big drop from year over year, but I don't think it's a surprise given the environment that we're in.
So that is one of the most significant changes that we saw in the survey, is that change in affordable housing. We heard that reiterated in the comments. All of the comments were provided, so if you want to read through what people had to actually say, that's available to you as well. I thought that the increase in satisfaction with traffic was really interesting, particularly when you put it in context of when we talked to them last time and there was a stay-at-home order for the end of that survey. And I think that this is a matter of some new people coming into the market, which Nicole mentioned, as a reason that places they're coming from have much worse traffic. Some of it, I truly think, is a reflection of some of the efforts that you've made to make things safer and to minimize the conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians and golf carts and, bicycles, that kind of thing.
Okay, questions?
On the affordable housing, I have some questions about that, and it would also seem like we would want to delve into that subject matter most certainly on a next survey. But it would seem to me that if that's asked of the business community, I don't know that it was defined differently. For example, I think of affordable housing in a survey like this as, if this is going to the business folks, are they talking about themselves as the person filling out that information, or are they talking about the ability for their people that are working with them?
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about, it's their employees.
Based on the comments, I think that it's workforce housing. But our survey is everything from large businesses to people who are operating an at-home business.
Sure.
So you've got a broad spectrum of people who are responding. So for some of them, I think it probably is housing for themselves. But in the comments, I definitely heard concerns about housing for service workers, that kind of thing, that they're not having to migrate in from outside of the city.
When I looked at this, I saw it both ways. I just envisioned myself answering this if I were sitting in a home business, and I envisioned myself if I had a business down, for example, in the CRA or downtown here, and had lived here for a bit. Or as opposed to people who obviously didn't answer this, that aren't here and aren't here for a reason. One of the reasons is they can't afford a house in the area currently. So there really are at least two solid questions here.
So, I mean, we could potentially, I'm just off, this is totally off the cuff. You know, in some of the clarifying questions of the survey, we did ask the person filling out the survey if they were an owner, a manager, or an employee. So we could break it down to look at this question to see if if they answered any differently based on how they categorize themselves. So if they're looking, if they're considering as an employee, what does that look like, for me as far as being able to live and work here versus a business owner thinking about not just themselves but also their employees.
We only had 2 respondents who were not owners or managers.
Okay.
So we're not going to be
You're not
able
gonna see a
to
big
break that
difference.
out. We did ask what percentage of their estimate of what percentage of their workforce lives within the city of Dunedin. And that number and how that number is changing might be interesting.
So yes.
I do not have it at my fingertips.
I just pulled it up.
Yeah, I was thinking it was 50, but.
It's, 49.6% of businesses estimate that their employees reside in the city. So, and in 2020, it was 50.8%. So there's very minor change as far as, year over year. But again, we know given the climate and the changes we've seen over the last few years, that result certainly did not surprise me.
And I'm not challenging the survey to tell us more about this, but I just wanted to make that point because there are 2 different sides of this, I'm sure. And,
Absolutely.
And I have another question about the survey later, but so I think we all not only intuitively know, but we're hearing enough that we have a question and an issue here for these folks with regards to employees or workforce housing. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just a point of clarification on, I'm on the traffic, so that basically 67.3% were satisfied with the traffic compared to 56 point.
Yes, satisfied or very satisfied, yes. Yeah, that was, as I said, that was one of the most surprising findings. But I think that it does relate both to new people coming in who are having a different experience than wherever they came from. And I think that it is in response to some of the efforts that you've made to improve some of the big trouble spots.
Yeah, and the affordable housing to me is not surprising because between 2020 and now, there's been a significant change in the rental market and in the property values and everything associated with that. So.
Absolutely. Before we leave this slide, parking is going to look strange with the slide that follows. I wanted to say that only 11.2% are saying that they are very satisfied with Dunedin and parking, and the balance of that is satisfied. So I wanted to point that out before we left this slide.
Okay. We specifically asked infrastructure and maintenance satisfaction. And again, I labeled this areas of concern because they were, as far as the ratings go. So
Actually, the question was, do you have any areas of concern? And this wasn't a rating scale like what we've just been looking at. This was, last time in 2020, a broad open end where people could say anything that they wanted. This is one of those questions that Nicole referenced earlier, that this time we collapsed and provided them with some choices. And the reason for doing that is when you go back and do this survey again in 2 years, it will give you something quantitative that you can compare against to see how things are moving and trending. Where the open ends, that's a little harder to do. So in providing the list of choices, what we did is we combed through the open ends that we were provided in 2020, and we used that in order to create a number of choices. So this wasn't a rating. This was what we asked is, what areas of concern do you have with Dunedin's infrastructure and maintenance? So it is not surprising It looks surprising, initially, but it's really not surprising that you could have somebody who said, yes, I'm satisfied, but in terms of infrastructure and maintenance, that's one of my big concerns. Because it could be, okay, I'm satisfied with the situation as it is, but I'm not sure that there's enough parking, as we grow more. That sort of thing would make sense. So I do think that you're going to, well, you can tell by the numbers, you will find people who said they were satisfied but also concerned. Okay. We only had 8.6% who said that there wasn't any area that they had concerns about.
Okay.
Mayor, can
Sorry.
do you mind? On pace of development, we have, 30%? Do they think that the pace is too fast, or do they think the pace is too slow?
We specifically asked whether, exactly the same as we do in the resident survey, we specifically asked whether or not they thought the city was growing too quickly or at the right speed, and it was very similar. There we go. So in 2020, 30.7% said that they thought the city of Dunedin was growing and developing too quickly when we asked specifically. This time it was 29.7. So just a point difference in that number, but a point difference trending downward. And 10%, basically 11%, said that they think that the city is not growing or developing quickly enough, both in 2020 and now. So 60%, the majority, not the vast majority, but the majority think that the pace of development is at the right speed.
Okay, is that the right speed? Okay, thank you. And then on parking, the way that it looks now, can you tell from the comments, are the businesses pro-car centric, or is this really a parking issue, or or is it customers? Do the businesses care how people get to Dunedin or move around Dunedin?
The businesses do care, and we specifically added a question that dealt with alternative modes of transportation and how which ones positively impacted their business. So 62.9% of businesses said that the Pinellas Trail positively impacted their business, with 36.4% saying that, giving it a very positive rating. And bike racks, we didn't ask about this last time. This was added in response to your comments when we brought the survey to you. 58.9% said that bike racks positively impacted their business, or very positively or positively. And 31.8% said positively. So yes, they are interested. Golf carts also were 57.4% positive rating. So they are interested in alternative transportation modes.
That question also, just for clarification, it was question 13 in the report. It includes Uber, Lyft, the Jolly Trolley, the PSTA, and the Clearwater Ferry. So those are all reported. And I don't see anything, well, Uber is a little bit lower, but everything's around the 40-50% as far as how they impact their businesses.
Thank you.
And if I can just add to that, if you look at the written comments at the end of this report, the 30-some pages of it or whatever there is, besides code enforcement, the number one comment is lack of parking, not enough parking, too much traffic, but lack of parking. I mean, it's over and over and over and over, which was said in our last business survey. Same thing. And I don't think that's based on how they get there. I think it's how their customers are coming and they see the complaints about it. So, I mean, that's what I saw when I read all those comments. Okay, good.
Okay. And then as far as factors important to business location, we basically asked, why would you come to Dunedin and open a business? So we listed the top 5 most important factors, which include a low crime rate, the attitude of local government towards business, the overall image, the synergy between the business and the professional community, and then tourism. And then these were just some, highlighted some words as far as the responses included in relation to this question.
And we saw statistically significant increases in the respondents who were ranking both the attitude of local government toward business and the overall image of the city as extremely important factors in their decision or in business decisions to locate here.
I like that one.
Okay.
Okay. We broke down the codes and regulations question as far as satisfaction goes to zoning, landscaping, signage, and parking. You can see here, again, some minor shifts. We see parking show up again. Ann, did you want to delve into some of these?
This parking is business parking regulations specifically. And one thing that reading through all of the comments pointed out for me is that as you look at this, even as you're making changes and improvements, say in the zoning department, for example, I was seeing comments that related bad experiences that went back 10 years. So you have to remember that departments such as zoning are something that the majority of businesses only interface with occasionally. And so it will take a while before improvements ripple through and show up in survey responses. So.
And then the other piece of this is, asking as far as what kind of services would these businesses be interested in performing online? Obviously, permitting being the top, the business tax receipt, which is done annually, incident reporting, utilities services, special event forms, a request, and then the golf cart registration. Any questions?
So permitting online?
So as part of Energov, we're hoping to get the instructors here in October and get Energov up and running. So we did 4 pushes of information to upload the land management system into Energov, and now we need to train staff, retrain staff. So it's coming.
Do we have a target date?
I don't have a date for you. Let me talk to Michael and I can get you the date.
Yeah, if you could, that would be great. Yeah, okay, that's it for right now.
Anybody else? Okay.
Okay. So this section on events is one that we actually added to this year's survey because we have been hearing about how events may be impacting our businesses. And so we had a series of questions kind of asking how are you impacted with your employees, your hours, your sales, your customer traffic, all of those things. And then how is your business impacted by the hours that you're operating? So here we've got a few different pieces of information as far as the businesses are primarily or almost 50% open during events. They either fall outside of their hours or maybe the business is dependent if they're going to stay open or closed based on what type of event it is. So it's kind of mixed there. And then as far as how the event impacts, you can see the level of staffing, the hours, the customer traffic, and the sales. Primarily, the highest rating in all of those is the stay the same category. You can see the differences with the increase and the decrease. Ann, if you wanted to add anything to.
Absolutely. So we did look, one of the things that we heard in the last survey in 2020 was the sentiment that businesses who were located downtown, and not only downtown, but right on Main Street versus just off of Main Street, were treated differently or had more attention, and that businesses who were further away felt like that they didn't get the same focus. We still heard that a bit in this survey, but definitely less. So that was a good thing. Downtown businesses, so last time, all we asked was kind of an open-ended question of, do events positively or negatively affect your business? And we took those responses and we made this a series of questions about events. Downtown businesses were both more likely to say that events increased their business and more likely to say that events decreased their business. So we saw both of those were more likely to happen downtown, but through comments, it seemed like efforts that you've made to spread events out have positively impacted businesses who weren't experiencing those impacts before. And so it seemed, in fact, events rated in the top 5 things that businesses say that the city is doing for them. 18%, so 1 out of every 5 of the businesses that we talked to said that they had seen a positive change in how events impact their business now versus 2 years ago. The funniest one was a medical somebody or other who said that, you know, they see more business after, you know, large groups of people get together, but.
So, and just to kind of give you like a highlight for all of the several questions we asked on this topic, the majority of businesses are staying open, or they're not impacted. 1 in 5 businesses report increase in business following an event. The most positive overall of the events listed, and the event list was quite lengthy, was spring training, which was most positive at 50%. And then while I say most negative, the number is quite low, but Mardi Gras did rate the most negative as far as how it impacts businesses. And then as we know, a lot of our community businesses are involved in events, so 66% responded that they were involved in some way, whether participating in the event, volunteering at the event, attending the event, and so on and so forth.
And many of them said that they were involved in multiple ways, but it was over 40% who said that they were attendees. So your business owners very much see themselves as members of the community as well. Part of the reason spring training is so positive for so many businesses is just it lasts, you know, a month and a half, as opposed to most events that are a weekend, you know, or a day.
Any questions on events?
Nope.
Okay. This is kind of getting towards the end here. We asked a series of questions on communications, how they received their communications, what they were looking at, what their satisfaction level was. So we've got 75.9% rate the city communications as excellent or good. We've got 81% using our government dunningov.com website. We did see a little bit of a drop in the website usage, as you can see in number 4 here, but what we did see a big growth in was our social media, which we know we've really ramped up our use of several social media platforms and getting content out in that way. So that was a big increase. So the prominent sources of information remain the city's website, our social media channels, and then the Chamber of Commerce. And then you can see kind of a breakdown of the ratings there with communications.
So overall, city communications were rated by 76% of the respondents this time as excellent or good. In 2020, that was 74. So 74 to 76, which again isn't a huge improvement. But last time I saw a lot of very negative comments about feeling like the city had never reached out to them or communicated. I really did not see those comments this time. So,
Oh, I saw that.
You,
I just read through it just now. We are seeing, I mean, maybe not as much.
I didn't see them, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I just saw a whole page of nothing but nobody ever calls us.
But remember, you're looking at just the people who had a comment.
No, I get you. But I mean, that's a lot of comments for 150 people that responded.
It is a lot, and it is actually significantly less than last time. We saw.
Well, that's good. That's the positive way to look
Yeah,
at it, but
it's
it
a-
also says that we need to do something about it.
So I mean.
Still, we need
the
to
amount
continue
of-
on.
Yeah, the amount of comments that were provided last time was, what we felt, looking at just the overall results and in combination with the comments was a lot more positive. Because as you know, you're more likely to provide that extra comment if there's some level of dissatisfaction. Any other communications questions? All right, so that brings us to the end here. So we attached, obviously, the full report that kind of delves into each of the questions and the responses. The open-ended questions was attached as well, and then the survey instrument itself. We'll take a look at this and kind of work through the items that maybe are some of those high priorities. I know you mentioned, Vice Mayor Torunga, affordable housing specifically. And then we've got a great resource that we've developed over the last year and a half with the Business Resident City Council and the Downtown Task Force. So we feel like we've really helped with communications and sharing of ideas through that group. So as we kind of, if we have to dig into anything, that's a great resource for us to work with.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions or comments overall? Or how about questions? Well, you know what? Let me do this. I'm going to open it up to the public first. Anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak to this survey? Okay. So, questions or comments? Vice Mayor?
Yes, I've talked about this before, and that it's my focus on all of the elements within the survey. So when I see us combine, and I'm okay with that, but when we combine and say satisfied or very satisfied, we combine those together, and then we set them up here. And of course, that means that many people are satisfied or very satisfied. So you really have to look at some of the detail to really try to get a feeling of that, to try to help you figure out what it really does mean to you. Some of these surveys could cause some of us to jump to some conclusions. It is a survey after all, and many of us talk with the individuals that we're addressing here, that are attempting to give us input. The part you talked about a little bit ago leads me to believe that we can identify where these people communicated from or where they were located from a business standpoint?
Yes. One of the questions we asked is where their business was located. So we know if they're on Main Street, we know if they're, on 580, yeah.
So the majority that I heard of some of the comments, I could immediately feel myself being in the downtown area as opposed to being outside of the downtown area. So, for example, when we look at parking, okay, that really relates to downtown here, I would think, and not to the other parts, of which there must be some rather large percentage. I would assume that where our businesses are actually located, whether they're the respondents is another question. So how does that relate to the number of businesses that we have within the city of Dunedin and to where they responded from by as a percentage? Do you have any input to that?
I am not sure that we have the grainage in terms of those overall numbers I gave you earlier of where they're located. I know that I don't from the U.S. Census. I don't know whether you can pull that from.
Well, I mean, even with looking at the survey results and breaking it down by what they responded, I think that's what I'm getting as your question.
That we can definitely do. We can look at parking ratings, for instance, downtown versus people located elsewhere. For all of those number of questions where we asked it.
I use that only as an example, by the way. For us, as we look at these numbers, that that it would seem to me we should search ourselves and perhaps use a survey to gather specific information. And that's a comment now. But it could also be a question for you to respond to, but it would seem like that could cause me then to ask some specific questions of a particular group of what they really think they wanted and what they really didn't want. Do you find that to be somewhat correct, or?
Absolutely. Okay. And as we went through and prepared the report, for questions where we thought there would be a big difference, we did look to make sure we weren't seeing statistically significant differences. And that was part of the reason that if you look back at our 2020 report, we pointed out more of those. So when I was saying that we saw less of a difference, we saw fewer statistically significant differences between businesses located downtown and businesses located elsewhere this time than we did last time. One of those big differences was events and whether their impacts were positive or negative. But we looked at that for a number of different questions as we went through, and had we seen significant differences, we would have provided it in the language. But we can look at these specific things and through Nicole provide back to you anything that you want to drill down on more as far as the information is in the survey.
So as I was reading through this, I started asking myself from a dollar standpoint, okay, for example. So I said, well, who's filling this out for Publix? We have several Publix here in the city of Dunedin, of course. And if you look at some of how they may be responding to this, as opposed to a smaller local, or certainly a house, somebody that's running their business out of their house, they probably have other requirements, other thoughts, rather significant.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Most of my questions just been asked and answered. I think these surveys in general are just wonderful. It keeps us from being blindfolded and just shooting in the dark, that at least we've got an idea. We've taken a temperature of where the business community is and what they think of us, and so far it sounds like we're doing okay. So now it's just a matter of taking the survey, taking the trend line, and we got at least 2 years now, or 2 surveys, digesting it a little bit and find out where we can improve. So thank you very much.
Commissioner?
I just have one question. On the parking issue, so 2/3 of businesses, rated the concern of parking from an infrastructure point of view huge.
The question that we asked is, what areas, I could say it to you exactly, but it was what areas of infrastructure and concern do you have? And in 2020, we asked that as just a wide open end, let them say anything that they wanted to say. And then this time, we combed through all those responses from 2020 and collapsed it into a list that we provided to them that they could check off. So parking was one of those things that was available to them to check off. So this does not measure, we weren't rating how significant of an issue that they thought it was here. That percentage is saying that many businesses said that parking was an area of infrastructure concern. So that's what that number means. And again, that's out of a list that was provided. We had 8.6%, if I remember correctly, the decimal, I know it was 8%, who said that they didn't have any areas of infrastructure concern.
So most people answered it, and out of the people that answered it, or out of the businesses, it was 62% that said park.
Right. It said that they thought parking was an area of infrastructure concern.
So, and I do want to point out that when you look at the previous, question on this, how satisfied are you with parking, you've got 62% 2.2% saying they're either satisfied or very satisfied with parking.
With
So that's-
11% saying very satisfied.
Wait, say that again? Say that again?
So we specifically asked, how satisfied are you with these items? And when the question of parking was asked as far as your satisfaction, the response was 62.2% were satisfied, or a combination, satisfied, very satisfied with parking. So again, we actually specifically talked to Ann about this question, because when you go from one slide to the next,
It doesn't
so
seem
one
to-
it could be a little confusing. One is a satisfaction rating. The other is, of these things, what areas are you concerned with? So we provided you this bucket to choose from. Which ones would you pick? And so that's where we're seeing parking being selected more than the others.
And when you look at that satisfied 62% with parking, how does that relate to downtown versus out of downtown?
That, I think we
I
would have
can
to
look
pull
at it
that.
and get back to you. I do not remember off the top of my head.
Yeah,
As I said, I
I'd be-
looked at many of them as we went
Yeah,
through, but I
just-
don't recall.
Statistically, it would be good to verify that. And if you could, I did not go back and do this, but I'd be curious then how that jives with the citizen survey as it relates to parking in downtown.
I don't think we asked it. I will have to check and see if we
Yeah.
asked. I don't recall.
Okay. If we
It
didn't,
may,
we
I
probably
know we
should.
definitely heard a lot about parking in the citizen survey, mixed, issues with street parking versus, that sort of thing. But I think it may have been more, where we broke it down this year, it may have been more of just traffic where then the
Lots of
parking was
traffic.
discussed. But we'll take a look
Yeah,
at
any
it.
way you can crystallize that from both the business and the citizen point of view would be kind of great, just because, obviously we're talking about making a pretty big expenditure down there, so.
Right. Yep. No, we'll take a look at it.
Any questions?
Do you feel that you got a commensurate percentage of participation from the businesses that aren't located downtown? Do you feel that they were represented well based on your location question?
Yes. And we can provide the breakouts to you.
Yeah, and that's important, because to kind of continue the thread that Commissioner Franey was talking about on the parking, that 62% number to me could possibly represent, okay, a majority of the businesses are okay with our parking situation.
I do want to point out, only 11.2% said that they were very satisfied with parking. So the balance of that, the 51% were satisfied.
Yeah.
So, which is still a good number. I will get to staff the breakout of that number, downtown versus other. I will check and see whether or not we asked it in the citizen survey and how that related. And I will get the percentage of people located downtown versus elsewhere in the city.
And, let me bring out another nuance in this. From a business perspective, I'm sure that, there's a general idea of how much their business is being impacted by lack of parking. I'd be surprised if they didn't have some idea on that. But, okay, flip the page from a, resident and community perspective who want to come down, visit, shop in our shops. And I think this goes right down to the lane that Commissioner Franey was saying about crystallizing the difference between the resident community survey and the business survey. So anyway, my comment now is it pertains to the importance of these surveys, because we don't really have any other polling mechanism unless it's an informal social media thing. And and for anybody who's listening, it is absolutely imperative that you participate in these surveys, because this we get a lot of information in terms of how we make our decisions. And I will say that I worry about the statistical significance of the surveys. 150 respondents is not a big number for me, so I have to, you got to look at it in that perspective. So we need maximum participation on that. And I know that you guys are doing everything you can to make that happen. So with that said, there are some takeaways in there I think that we should focus on. I think everybody's brought those out. So anyway, greatly appreciate it.
We have what, 1,100 businesses in the community, something like that?
Oh, I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, because, I mean, we're a bedroom community, so only 5% of our property is commercial, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think we learned during Irma, when COVID hit, that's what we had, was around 1,100.
1,100 businesses in the
Yeah,
community.
so,
I meant to ask that question.
but if you look at both, they're right around the same, so that tells you something. But yeah, we should probably try to figure, change up our approach to try to get more. I don't even know what that means. That doesn't say you guys didn't do a good job. I don't mean it that way.
My
Yeah.
opinion, you did.
But it does mean, let's get creative. And who knows? I mean, maybe it's a giveaway, or, I don't know, fill out the survey and you might win a TV or something. I don't know.
Dinner with the mayor. I think that would draw a lot of people out.
Oh, I don't think that's going to help you at all. Sorry. So these are my takeaways, and I don't want anybody to take any offense to what I'm saying, but I feel like I have my time to talk with all of you about it. My top things that I saw throughout the whole survey, okay, and it didn't really matter what the question was, because it was repeated over and over and over again. I'm talking about the handwritten comments. Because you can look at the stats stuff, but when you're asking somebody to write something, they're going to try to write something meaningful versus checking a box. It's a different mindset when you're filling out a survey. Obviously, there is, some concern with code enforcement, planning, and development. It's very clear. It's mentioned over and over and over again. The concern about it, what they're saying, is selective enforcement, equal playing field, inconsistent enforcement, that we need more collaboration with that department, better landscaping and curb appeal, citywide, not just Dunedin. So, I know that Jennifer has been involved very deeply in the business resident
City
task force. And so she's working to address a lot of these things. And this is just a point in time.
Yes.
But I just have to say it, and I wasn't going to say it today, but now I do. I just feel like I have to say it. I was elected in 2006. I have been hearing the same complaint since then. And we've had different directors, different people involved. We've done a huge amount to improve this. So that cannot go unnoticed.
One of the
We've
things
gotta-
that the survey pointed out to me, though, was that people's negative experiences from the past are still being repeated
Correct.
in the survey today.
Correct.
So even all the improvements that you've made haven't necessarily, a particular business owner hasn't necessarily interfaced with that department
I agree,
since
and
to
I
have
agree that
their
might be
opinion
messaging.
changed.
It might be some messaging. I think we've got a rock star supervisor in code enforcement. I think we've changed our code enforcement rules. But this is specific to businesses.
Right.
And what was mentioned over and over, bureaucracy, hard to get anything done, one business getting favored over another. A lot of these things are being addressed in the business task force. And some of those things will come forward. I just think we're moving a little too slow. Not that group, and I don't mean that. I just mean which is why we just added all these new positions, because we can't move any faster. So I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but it's just an ongoing problem. With with the online permitting, I mean, this thing has been going on for years, and we have reasons, but at the end of the day, we're throwing out the reasons of why we don't have our online permitting, and that bugs people. Yes, go ahead.
No, I mean, wouldn't you also caution us not to let the comments override the statistical numbers? You know, maybe a small group of people are very verbose in their comments, but most people are like, hey, doing good.
And some people do repeat the same comment over and over because they want to make sure you heard it, so.
Oh, you can tell which ones.
I can.
You can, because they use the same language. I could totally see that.
So there.
I was just trying to
there is
caution
some
the
of that
mayor.
going on.
No,
But
kidding
I
you.
read all of the comments in 2020. I read every single one. I read every single one this time as well. And so I think as you read those comments, you've got to kind of look at general trending as well. And so, yes, I saw those things too.
And I agree. I mean, when you say 62% satisfaction of parking, I'm sorry, that's not a great satisfaction to be touting when we're looking at stuff in the 90s.
No, it's
62% stinks. I don't care if it's over 50, it stinks. When you look at every other question and every other thing, that percentage of satisfaction is so much higher. So I don't care, you know, again, over and over under every single question with the written comments, parking is mentioned, lack of parking. It's affecting my business. And this is about businesses. It's not about residents. It's about their perception of how we interact with them, how we collaborate with them, how we communicate with them, how we partner with them, how we help them. Under the communication question, over and over and over again, says, I never hear from anybody. Now, granted, I know we do communication. I know that, and I know our communication. I don't want Sue to have a heart attack. I know our communication has, you know, dramatically increased. What I think that was saying is that, hey, we need more meetings with our economic development department with the various business community. Oldsmar, they go visit a new business every month. I only know that because I'm friends with the Oldsmar mayor. I mean, there are different strategies that we can use that.
Now you're giving Bob Ironsmith authority.
Yeah, well, but again, he's also lost employees over this, you know, last 5 years. I'm just saying, there are reasons why certain things are happening. I just think if we put out a survey, we need to listen to it. That's what I think. I am not complaining in any way. I want us to use the information here. Hey, Bob. I want us to use the information here constructively and have us think outside the box to try to address it and not try to explain it away. I think we all know that everybody has worked really hard to improve things since the last survey and even before. And I know there are many reasons why certain things are what they are. I just don't want us to be in defense mode. What I want us to be is, okay, we've got this feedback. Let's be completely open-minded. Let's say to this stuff when you see a comment over and over and you know it's not the same person, because I know you could see it, then it's just telling you something. It's just saying, yeah, we might have 92% approval rating, but it's saying these are the things that are concerning to me as a business owner, individually. And I just think it's great for us to embrace it, and I don't think we need to look at it as a negative. Right. I think it's, okay, this is how we structure our next 2 years before the next survey. Let's focus on these areas. That's what I'm trying to say. So parking, hopefully our budget will be approved and our parking garage will continue because we're addressing it. We've got the looper we're addressing. You know, there are things we are doing. There are things we're doing in code enforcement, but maybe there's other things. How can we look at it differently? Maybe there's things in community development that can be looked at differently. Maybe there's more meetings between code enforcement and community development and economic development with the business owners all over the city, not just downtown. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying those things aren't occurring. I'm saying we need to there is a strong sense that we are not being consistent in our approvals of much of anything when it comes to the business owners. And so we have to do any number of things to attack that. And I think we are doing a lot of things, but I think there can always be more. And communication with the business community. I saw a number of comments about marketing and promotion of the business. You know, and I think we're working on that with Visit Dunedin. I think, you know, we have some business organizations, but, you know, during COVID, Sue did a great job with having these small videos of businesses all over the city. You know, maybe that's an idea to continue to do that. I don't know the right answer. I'm not saying it is the right answer. And then I saw, even though I saw a whole ton of comments about how events, you know, can be negative to certain businesses, I saw a lot of comments about, well, if you're going to have events, we need to have them during the off-season. And smaller things that aren't road closures, like, you know, the Taste of Dunedin or the Friday night thing. I understand business organizations put a lot of those things on, but maybe we need to work with them to do that and help them make it better. I don't know the answer. I just want us to think outside the box, because I always go straight to those comments. And if you look at our citizen survey, top 3 comments: affordable housing, overdevelopment, traffic. Those are always the top 3 comments. But do you really need to read the 92% survey to see 30 pages of comments that say the same thing over and over, and then you don't address it because you got 92% satisfaction? No. You go to the negative and you say, okay, what can we do about that? And so I think that's really important. And what I would like to see is, I would love to see Jennifer, you know, get in a huddle with her people, look at these things, and come back to us and say, here are some ideas we have, and we just want you to know how we're going to take some steps on those major commented items. And it's not an immediate thing. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it'll be something that you're going to do over the next period of time. And again, some of it is, like you said, Commissioner, just communication. You know, what did we call it? You asked, we listen, you said, we listen, whatever that was. Some of that can be that, but you know, maybe it's more than that. And I kind of think it is. Does that make some sense to you, Jennifer?
Well, we will, as a result of this survey, we developed the action plan, which is what we did for the last surveys. And the action plan has obviously actionable items to address some of the comments within the survey. Others, I mean, whether it's a communication, I thought the You Spoke, We Listened was very effective, because we found in the last residents survey that there were a lot of things the residents wanted to see that we were actually already doing.
Right.
And there's some of that in this survey as well. But in terms of some of the things that you were just addressing, we can put that together in ways that we can affect that opinion and change that opinion, or not, or say, you know,
Sure.
This is something that we can't do. So that's going to be the next step for us to address this survey. I think it is important that we address those comments head on and
Yeah.
and then convey to the community what we did to change it. For example, traffic. I mean, you remember.
Oh.
We did a lot
We
to
did a
address
lot.
the traffic issues,
But
including.
it's so bad, what are you going to do? I
Right.
mean,
But we did 2 additional CPOs, you remember, dedicated
Yep.
to traffic, and also I think that the changes at the trail in Skinner,
Yeah.
as well as by the marina, probably impacted that comment as well. So we'll look at all that, we'll dissect it. It's the next step as a result of this survey.
Right. And what I really want to say is, I don't want our departments and our valuable people to get the impression, you know, you can look at social media and take away the net comment without taking away the sting that they're giving it to you. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that we are terrible in any way, shape, or form. I think we've got some of the hardest working people here. So I just want to make sure that that's known. But yes, ma'am.
Well, I was just going to add, the lowest ranked area for code enforcement in the survey that I believe is business sign regulation. So
Well, we know where that comes
we're
from.
never going to make, we're never going to make everybody happy with that.
No.
And I do think when you look at, if I was going to interpret, I would say, when people say, oh, you're not enforcing the same, I mean, you go back to our signboard ordinance downtown. Well, it's not being enforced the same. Now I think it's better, but again, it's a kind of a, it's an ongoing issue where it takes a lot of time from our code people to do it. So I don't know. I mean, something like that, it's going to be hard to ever get those numbers up because I think businesses are never going to be completely happy with sign code ordinance.
I agree. I think there are some of those things. I totally agree. But then there's.
But no, I agree with you too. I mean, people take the time to do the comment. You need to take the time to look at it and think it through and see if there's things
Right.
we should change.
And like I said, I think we've got some really rock star creative people that can look at this and say, how can we approach it differently? That's it. And I'm, assuming everybody's in agreement with that, right? You good?
I think that, I just want to say, though, Mayor, that we have a educated professional staff who are dedicated to what it is they're doing. I think that regulation is difficult. Even at the best of
Always.
times, regulation is difficult. I think that the Code Compliance Division is administering the code, if you will, on equal basis throughout, but it takes time. And it takes time to turn that ship around a bit. We had some issues in the past, and we've addressed those issues. We do have a professional code compliance supervisor in place right now who's been in the business for 25 years.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I said. She is a rock star.
As is the staff as well. And also planners who are professional planners who have been doing this for a long, long time. And so I don't want them to take this discussion in any way, shape, or form as a negative. They have my support, and we're going to address some of these comments within the survey. Economic development is another really tough nut to crack, and Bob is here. We have some affordable housing scores, if you will, that are not where they should be. We agree that's due to the environment that we're in right now. But also, Bob comes to me at least once or twice a week with some affordable housing project. And we have, every single time we've had an opportunity, we have dedicated funding to affordable housing possibilities, if you will. So I think it's just very important to say that we have a professional staff, and I think what they're doing, some of the things that they're doing are imaginative, they are innovative. I mean, the business residence city, the BRC, we're doing the outdoor dining ordinance. We pulled it ahead of the land development code amendments. The golf cart master plan is another big nut to crack. So I mean, there's lots going on that I don't think that the public see on a regular basis. So I just wanted to say that I don't want staff to take this negatively. Thank you.
Well, and that's kind of why I said, I think we've got some real rock star creative folks in our whatever I'm saying is not meant to be negative in any way. I hope it doesn't frustrate them. However, I have to represent what I see, and that's all I'm saying. And so I'm saying new and fresh ideas. There's got to be some out there. So, okay, anything else, Nicole?
No, that is it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Knocked it out of the park again. We appreciate all that great information. We appreciate all the businesses that, filled it out. And we appreciate the city manager bringing this idea forward when she first came here. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, let's take another little break before we go on to our next item. Sorry, guys.
For Eric and Pat.
I don't think it, we should have taken that one first.
Is a virtue.
It is. And then we'll be back. we're back to our final, well, not our final item, but our workshop item, the Charter Review Committee report. And so I welcome you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for presenting. So please, I'll turn it over to you. Did you have any opening remarks, Jennifer?
On the charter review.
On the charter review. No, I mean, I think the report does a really nice summary. They met several times. Oh, thank you, sorry. They met several times, I think it was approximately 6 times. It was a very active committee. They were very thoughtful, spent time, came prepared to those meetings, and really were discussing the details of every single article of the charter. And so offered to you at this time is their report and the sections they identified where there was a proposed revision, and then it actually includes what that revision is. Some of them, you know, if there's any issue with identifying them because some of them were more grammatical, like taking out commas and things, I'm happy to kind of point you to the proper place on the page if necessary.
Sure.
And with that, I would-
Okay. Eric, Pat?
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Manager Bramley. So as you know, on January 12, 2023, the Commission voted to establish a Charter Review Committee per Section 602 of the City Charter, and then later appointed the volunteer members of that committee. These residents are Victoria Butler, Christopher Crampert, Rhonda Neal, Patricia Morea, Mike Ray, Rob Dietro, and myself. Regrettably, our committee chair, Rob Dietro, had to resign before the final meeting due to personal scheduling conflicts. Our committee met 6 times over 6 months. Meetings were open to the public and advertised by the city on its websites and various social media outlets to encourage other residents to give their thoughts and opinions during the review. We did have a few residents attend the meetings, and during the meeting process, guests were encouraged to share their thoughts and recommendations at the beginning of each meeting, and were invited to remain and listen to the committee's discussion. After studying the charter and comparing the topics to other municipalities' charters, the committee thoroughly discussed each item and agreed by vote, some by majority and many unanimously, to recommend several items for revision consideration. Many of the items were merely grammatical in nature or for improved clarity. The committee agreed upon 10 proposed revisions to 13 sections. At the pleasure of the Commission, I can read them all in detail, or I can read the summary heading if you like.
Summary heading is probably good.
Very good.
And just, you know, any general comments you want to give as to why.
All right, the first one is proposed revision, change the order of Section 102 to 103 and renumber accordingly to Section 102, and construction and Section 103, acquisition and disposal of property in eminent domain. What we're basically saying there is we just wanted to reorder how those were listed.
Okay. Any questions on that, guys? Okay.
Pat, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Okay. Number 2, the proposed revision is add an introductory paragraph to Article 3, City Commission, before Section 3.01.
All right, anybody have any questions on that? You saw what they added? Okay.
All right, very good. Number 3, change any reference to he, change it to he or she, and any reference to his or her. You know, recognition of equality amongst genders. Looking at the faces across the dais, I think you'd understand that I think it's time. Any questions?
Good.
All right. Section.
You know, do I have to say his, her, or them?
I don't think so. I think you can just.
Well, them being a non-binary term in today's world.
So I just
Did you guys discuss
want to
that?
be clear. The committee agreed on his or her to recognize that we have openings at his or her. It didn't go into that area.
Gotcha. I'm just saying, we've done a lot in our inclusivity language.
So you certainly could. You could follow the recommendation of the committee, or you could adjust it even further. One of the other items that you have is within your code of ordinances, you have a section on interpretation where you identify, I think that every time there's a masculine used, it's to be interpreted as a masculine and feminine. So you could also address it there as well, without having to go through a full charter change and just identifying how you're interpreting.
And the only reason I'm saying this is because we're making a charter change already. I wouldn't have said it otherwise, but since we're making the change.
And the change proposed, just so you know, only affected a couple of sections, because everywhere else you already had it designated that way, so it was a consistency matter.
Oh, I see. So then if we add the them, it's going to be changing.
You'd be changing it throughout the
Okay.
entire charter.
Never mind. Just thought I should bring it up.
Thank you. The fourth proposal is to change the wording "shall cease" to "ceases." And that's in section 401. It is the third paragraph at the end. Questions? The fifth proposed revision is to delete the comma after "shall." And that is in section 406, first sentence in that paragraph. The sixth proposed revision, eliminate the third paragraph by putting the sentence at the end of the second paragraph and the second sentence at the beginning of the fourth paragraph. The point of this was just to consolidate the language. The language is a bit repetitive, and so the committee agreed that this would clarify and help make the language more concise without altering the intent of the section.
Everybody okay with that? Okay.
All right, and the seventh proposed revision, change any reference to voters to electors and add an apostrophe after candidates. What the intent was here was we kept alternating throughout the charter between voters and electors, and we're saying just make it, whatever it is, decide on that word and use it all the way through. And the apostrophe kind of goes without saying.
I'm fine with that. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay with it, but why'd you go with electors versus voters? Just curious. Is there a legal significance to one or the other, or?
What the committee discussed was in section 5.01 of your charter, you actually have electors, and you provide a definition of that. So I
Okay.
think they were just trying to use that consistently throughout.
Very good.
Makes sense to me.
Impressed. Okay, good.
Everybody okay with that? Okay.
Section 8, change any reference, again, it's the same thing, voters
Yeah.
to electors. And there was a separate section, 506, where we included this.
Okay.
The same again in
For
section
number
9. Throughout, we're trying to keep that verbiage, voters to electors.
Okay.
And the 10th and final proposal is, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, you don't have to read all that. We can see it. It's a
All
bunch
right.
of, it's grammatical.
It is grammatical.
It's all grammatical. That's going to, how in the heck do you put that on a?
That was discussed.
I'm sure Jennifer's going to find a reasonable way
Yes.
to put that on the ballot, because I didn't even want you to read that because it's so complicated. I had to read it like 3 or 4 times.
In all honesty, not only was that challenge discussed, but also the potential cost with, adding these to a ballot and changing them. But
But it already had the elector stuff, so you might as well make the whole sentence right. Yeah, I totally get that.
the committee worked hard, and we all agree. So the committee would like to thank you, the commission, for the opportunity to do this, and really thank the staff, Rebecca, Michelle, and Jennifer, for your support. Honestly, we couldn't have done it without you. So you're appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Obviously, I'll let them have their comments, but we thank you for all the work that you all did. We appreciate that. Vice Mayor, any final comments, or?
No, I really appreciate you going through this. I know we just sit here and listen, but we've all read these, of course,
Yeah.
as you know. And the group was just a fantastic group, so there was just, thank you.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to thank Eric, thank the entire committee for going through this. I know it can be tedious, but it is valuable information for us, even if we just acknowledge. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Commissioner?
I'm just going to repeat, thank you. You know, talk about rock star committee. And I know you guys are very dedicated and working at it, and just appreciate it. Appreciate you sitting here all day, you know, so thanks to you guys.
I should have moved you guys up, and I apologize. Today was like a Monday to me, and I didn't even put my jewelry on today. I mean, that's how discombobulated I was. I put my trash out, and my trash isn't coming. So, I mean, it's just been one of those days for me. Usually, if I have residents sitting in there, I move their item up, because I don't worry about contractor people, they're paid to be here. So, my apologies for that.
Rob just said,
No,
it's Monday? It's not Monday?
Rebecca
It's
and
not
Michelle
Monday?
are so good, we already knew that was going to happen. We were well prepared.
Rob?
Yeah, I just thank you. And I think there's another aspect of this that we need to recognize, and that's just, people like you standing up and really embarking upon a civic responsibility to this community. And this is such an integral part, and it shouldn't be ever minimized, and we're better for it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with all of that. I just thought, anything you want to share that you did hear from the public that we should be aware of? I know there are minutes attached, but, anything you want to, if you don't want to delve into it, that it's not worth delving into, that's fine. I just thought I'd give you the opportunity.
We didn't hear a lot of commentary from the public. They listened.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Because the last one was pretty contentious. And I think both of you were there for it. So it was different this time around.
Beyond that, we also remained in contact with Rebecca to see if we were getting emails or any type of electronic communications for those that couldn't be there. And to my knowledge, none were received.
So you felt like there was it was a lot different this time than last. That's why I'm asking, because last time it was really heavy.
Nope.
Okay.
It was pretty quiet.
Well, thank you, guys. We appreciate that. I would like to make sure that we, on a Thursday evening, quick presentation to do a thank you to the entire committee and invite them here. Even Rob Detro, even though he had to resign. But he did work on the group, so.
He did.
Would love to have you all back for a small little reception or, thank you. All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see. What time is it? It's 12. We're good. All our other items? It's on here. Yeah. Okay. Commission discussion. I don't think I got anything on commission discussion
I'm not seeing
from anybody, but, okay.
Can I make an announcement in humor?
Under
you?
commission discussion?
Right,
Sure.
yeah, right now.
Go right ahead.
So you heard the mayor talking about the trash pickup. Well, it is located on our website, and if you are scheduled normally for Monday, you are being picked up on Tuesday. If you're scheduled for Tuesday,
Yeah.
you're being picked up on Wednesday.
My entire neighborhood is out on the street
And then
right now.
everything else remains the same, so thank you.
I know. I'm telling you,
I know.
everybody on my street, well, and we didn't put ours out, and we got in the car to come here. Tom brought me here, and he's like, you're looking up and down the street, and he said, is today trash day? Because everybody's got their trash out, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's Tuesday. Sure, I wasn't even thinking about the fact that we just had a holiday, and I knew it had
I
changed.
saw that all the way over here.
So they didn't put their trash out because we did, but we put ours out because they did.
You're just out a day early.
Yeah. Oh, well, it'll sit there till tomorrow. Okay, city clerk's update. I know Rebecca's on vacation.
Aside from wishing her congratulations on the new grandbaby.
Oh, girl or boy, I don't remember.
boy.
Boy, awesome. That's awesome. So happy to hear that. Okay, city manager's update.
I do. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I want to talk a little bit about the storm debris. I know that you have been receiving a lot of questions from your constituents in regards to removal of debris. So this is a somewhat complicated process, if you will, just in terms of if it's FEMA eligible or not. We had a long conversation in the EOC, actually the Emergency Operations Center, the morning after the storm about debris. And at that point, some of our flooded areas, some of the residents had already started putting some of their debris on the curb, on the swale area. So the question was whether or not it's FEMA eligible for reimbursement for the city. I asked our solid waste director, Bill Pickram, and our director of public works, Sue Bartlett, to put together some of the costs if it were not eligible for reimbursement by FEMA. It would be easy to go out and say, okay, staff, go ahead and remove it. And the problem is it can't go to the waste to energy plant as construction debris. It has to go to a different facility, and we have to pay for that disposal. So I really needed to know what that cost looked like, and it's over $300,000. And so the good news is over the weekend, in fact on Saturday, I received notification from Chief Fast, who was our district chief on duty that day, that FEMA was in the area and they were doing a drive-by assessment, so that's good. The county, through their their regional operations center, has been pushing cities to report what our damages are as a result of the storm. We have damages in the flooded areas, and those are individual homes. The city facilities were not damaged for the most part, minor damage here and there. We did receive word late on Sunday night that we are FEMA eligible, which is very good news, and I pushed that email out to all of you. Yep. Staff is waiting for me after this meeting to start talking about debris removal. I'm going to have to ask our residents to be just a little bit more patient. I know that they want us to come by and get that debris. We need to coordinate that effort. I will let all of you know what the timing looks like as soon as I have that meeting, and then we will push that out on social media as well. So several options available to us. We do have debris haulers under contract. We also have a debris monitoring company called Tetra Tech. Once it is determined that we're FEMA eligible at that point, then we can put that whole process in place. And so I just want to let you know that you can inform your constituents, and as I said, whatever information we'll have, we'll push out as soon as we can for everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
Jennifer, as I mentioned to you earlier, people that I've been hearing from mostly are from Bayward Shores, and you call it debris. I think people think that's storm debris. I'm talking about furniture, wet drywall, that kind of thing. And of course, every time it rains, it's all sitting there. So I'm assuming we can figure out a way to communicate with Bayward Shores, maybe through their HOA. They probably have an email list. I mean, I would really like them to be communicated with today at some point, if at all possible. I don't know when they normally get their trash pickup. I don't know what day they're serviced by us. But if that's a special haul project, right, not normal garbage, I don't want them to get upset when it doesn't get picked up with their regular garbage. You know, and I just think they've already had a stressful moment. And I think anything we can do to just have them understand that I'm assuming that's a special pickup. If they're picking up,
it will be
furniture and drywall and
it's separate from their trash. Yes.
Right. So I don't want them to see their trash come and go and the stuff still sitting there.
Excellent point, Mayor. Excellent.
Because it's just going to stress them out, even though they should know that. As long as they're told that, I think, even if it's a door hanger or something, I don't care how we tell them. I just want to make sure that they know, because I've had numerous, and it's on social media too, flying around. So.
Well, yeah, and North Douglas, Cedar Creek, they were heavily impacted too. I was asked to come out and take a look, and I have to tell you, it was extensive. And obviously, they're not under an HOA, so we'll have to figure out that communication plan for the North Douglas people as well, because their normal pickup was on Thursday. It was supposed to, most of it got pushed to Friday, but I think we all kind of understand the differences between the debris that was caused, the drywall, the furniture, and that sort of thing. But yeah, we got to get that rectified quickly. It was.
Well, they're upset.
Yeah.
And, they're upset on any number of things that we don't have control over. But if we can make our dealing with them cause them a little less grief and being upset a little bit less, so just having that information, I think, makes it all the better. Commissioner Franny?
Yeah, so, and Jennifer, I don't know how you, making sure you catch everybody who's in the situation, because I know there's some homes on North Santa Barbara and potentially on Buena Vista as well. They got water. So how are we making sure that we capture everyone who took water in?
So we actually did an assessment, and the damage assessment is part of the day after. We started in the afternoon of the day after the storm, which would be Thursday, or Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday afternoon, and then we went in those flooded areas, structure to structure, and we actually reported out through the Regional Operations Center what we saw as far as damage assessment. So we think that we've captured everybody. As I said, we're boots on the ground, street to street. If we missed anybody, then we will circle back and report them as well.
Did you guys check North Santa Barbara?
Yes.
And there was some?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure, I have North Santa Barbara right here. I'm not sure if there was intrusion into the homes. I can double check.
Yeah, and it would be also probably north Buena Vista. Because we saw people taking stuff out and airing their house out, so
Right.
I'm assuming, and I know those areas tend to get flooded before
Yes.
the other end of the street, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just might want to double check.
And like you
Okay.
said, 125 homes?
Yes.
right,
Yes.
Affected?
Yes.
So that's
That's a lot.
a lot, and so, when we talk about we dodged a bullet, a lot of,
Yeah,
25
no.
people did not, and that's pretty devastating.
Well, I commend county too. They push really hard to get FEMA
Yeah.
involved. And at first we weren't, so that
Yeah.
was surprising. And then county circled back and got FEMA here, and that was very effective, obviously.
Well, I think they said they had flooding events all the way down to Fort Myers
Yeah, they did.
from this storm. That's a long way away, but that's the reach and the push of water. When it's a storm surge, that's like crazy town.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jeff, could I just finish? The other common thing I heard was people losing docks. Obviously, that's not like getting your home flooded, but
Right.
another common thing of damage, so.
Jennifer, I know that we're aware of low-lying areas in the
Yes.
city, and I know that we even talked pre-storm where we can kind of anticipate Baywood, North Douglas, San Mateo. Was there, when we anticipated that, did we anticipate the severity that they had, or was that a shock to us? Or were there other areas of the city, Edgewater Drive, right? I don't know, they certainly didn't go into their houses there, but there was some street flooding. Was that a shock to us? Was there anything that we went, wow, this is more severe than we thought, especially given that the hurricane was offshore 100 miles, and so and given that we had some high tides during that period, but was there anything that was, any takeaways from that?
No, the low-lying areas that typically flood at a high tide, some of them typically flood at a regular high tide, were the ones that were flooded. We actually, and again, I'll mirror what the commissioner said. We won't say we were lucky, but as you know, the storm passed by us very quickly and farther west than we thought. So that storm surge came in, you remember watching it, and then went out again, and then the tide came in. And so that, I think, helped us, if you will, in some of those lower-lying areas. I have staff worked over the weekend to give me a really good overview, a briefing, if you will, of the flooded areas and some of the remedies moving forward. I'm not quite ready to discuss that with you. I haven't had a chance to really go over this and ask the questions that I want to ask about that. But I do think that we need to talk about those low-lying areas that did experience a storm surge and what we can do moving forward in some of those areas as well. So, but there were, Commissioner, there weren't any wows. There were some, there's a lot of concern, I think. I think we experienced and driving around with the mayor who's been here almost her entire life, has never seen flooding like that.
Ever.
So, and it wasn't even a major storm.
And we didn't find that shocking.
Oh, I found it shocking.
Okay, so there are some wow.
Well, I mean, but I don't know what 4 to 7 foot storm surge looks like.
Right.
I mean, we were told that, so we were prepared to expect it. But when what you see, I mean, to be on the causeway and see water all the way up to the trail, which is essentially the sidewalk next to the road, and not even see the beach, I mean, and then to be at the edge of Baywood Shores and have water all up around the clubhouse, and no way of even driving into the neighborhood. The water was almost up, and probably had been up to Alt 19. We just probably got there when it had receded a little. I've never seen anything like that. I've seen Baywood Shores flood 100 times. And I mean, you know, at the edge of Mo's neighborhood, the water at Palm Boulevard west of, west of Alt 19, I've never seen the water all the way out like that was. And the only way I knew that it went all the way back was because I have a friend that lives on Lagoon, which is, I don't know, 4 or 5 streets in. And all the way up to their dead end turnaround was nothing but water because they were videoing it. So I could see that piece of it.
And the only reason I ask is certainly
So yeah, it was shocking, but we
Hurricane
were
Ian
told that.
is still in all our heads,
Well,
you know,
Yeah,
and
no,
and
this is-
and then this, because what I thought we could almost say we dodged a bullet.
No.
It went west and didn't hit until the Big Bend area, and so that we can have this much damage or even concern
Right, without having,
without really having any should be of concern for us.
it is.
Had it been a little farther east.
Yeah, I was just
Had
going
it been even as a category 2 or 3, what it might have done to our community. I'm just raising a flag.
So just a little history on my area, with Santa Barbara, difference between north and south. Like, we got our house in 1996. There were a couple homes on the north side that actually FEMA records show had been flooded a couple times. So we actually literally bought on the south end because of that. So I think there's a little history there with the north end. And then so we got there in 96 and lived next to some people that had been on the street for 25 years. So push it back to, 80 in the 70s. And the worst they'd ever seen it, and to this day I think is still true, was the no-name storm, where literally the water got up to the doors of people, like the door but not in the house. But we've never seen anything off the street since that time. So that was 93. But that being said, the thing was 150 miles away from us, and it's unbelievable what we'd do if we had a direct hit. We'd be,
I mean, with
decimated.
Irma, we had a wind event, right? Ian was much of nothing. I mean, there was stuff, but much of nothing. This was a water event. And
a push water event.
Right.
It wasn't a rainwater
No.
event because
Right.
I had
I mean, that
let
didn't
water out
help.
of my pool
All
of this much
surge.
when I got
This
home.
is all surge.
all
Yeah.
surge.
surge. It was
And I don't
surge.
think anybody, I mean, I don't think anybody has, experienced surge to this degree if you've lived here a long time. I don't ever remember that. I mean, I remember flooding from a tide. I remember flooding from rain. I don't remember flooding from surge. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I mean, in my 20s and 30s, I never listened to anybody stay in my house. Of course, I would run down and go look. I've never seen it. I mean, that was just unbelievable, and that's what I told Jennifer. I've never seen it. I've been here 50-some years. I've never seen it anywhere, not just Dunedin, but, So, I will say that as Jennifer and I and Chief were driving around in the Chief's vehicle, the biggest thing I can say is, after action, once we get the immediate things like this stuff picked up for people and, obviously we need to get, I had a lot of questions about cheap hotel rooms. Now, Gregory gave some information to me that I will pass on to you when I get out of this meeting. I think we should post that kind of thing and about it because, some people can't even live in their house. Once we get past that kind of thing, we definitely are going to have to look at these areas and talk about best practices and strategies. We do it already. I get that. But again, I think this is one of those creative, outside-of-the-box things. Is there anything else we can do? I don't know that there is. I mean, even Jorge told us, and you told us, they cleaned out Baywood Shores drains before this storm happened, full well knowing that that's an area that floods regularly. But I mean, maybe we have to start talking other things, you know? You don't get to tear down a house and build a new one. You know, maybe, whatever, we need to start talking about something.
So, Mayor, one of the reasons why that FEMA assessment was really important is that now this area is, FEMA reimbursements and aid from the federal government is now eligible for individuals.
Right, so
And
they're going to be
Yeah,
able
and
to-
so, right, we will be pushing out all of that information. Sue is already part of the PIO group. So we'll be pushing out that information out as we get it. We typically don't depart from the message that we're getting, so it's a unified message. So, I mean, that eligibility was huge, and that happened over the weekend, so
Yeah.
we're moving on it now as quickly as we can.
How many people are homeless because of this here in Dunedin?
Vice Mayor, I'm not sure. I haven't heard of any homeless. That said, I'm sure that there are folks who've had
I've
to
gotten some
relocate.
messages wanting
Yeah.
to know what's the best, or any hotel, asking what are any hotels offer, you know, asking for discounts because they can't live in their home, so they're staying in a hotel. I will tell you that the Chamber has said that the Holiday Inn is taking FEMA and insurance. So I do know that. And there's some other information that Gregory gave me, and I'll just have to go back and look at it. I did not want to post that on my own because I
Right.
felt that that was a city message that, you know, it was a holiday weekend. I wasn't going to call you, Jennifer, to talk to you about it on a holiday weekend after the week we had. So I felt like that would be something more of a city message that
Right.
need to be given. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks again for your team's work. I mean, you guys rocked it as usual.
Thank you.
And I have heard a lot of positive feedback towards the city and, you know, communications, and I've gotten very little, if any, negative, I think.
Just a quick question, so how's that information going to get pushed out? Is social media primarily, or?
I need to meet with staff to talk about what we're able to do and how we're able to push it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will let all of you know via separate email.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything? You good?
I'm good. I'm assuming that will also then be on our website.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
probably on a highlighted green area down below. Trying to get everybody to look at that now.
Yeah, and we do have, I mean, in the top, we have it's in red about the hurricane, any information about the hurricane. So, yeah.
Okay, anything else, Jennifer?
Nothing further, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. City Attorney's update. Well, you sent us an email. You want to talk about that email real quick?
Oh, sure, I can.
Yep.
So at the last meeting, there was a discussion item on, with regard to the budget and the number of votes that are required to pass the budget. So it is a majority vote. The supermajority vote had to do with the millage. And so if the millage rate, as what's being proposed right now, in accordance with the statute, will require a majority vote. And a supermajority vote of 4 members.
Say it again.
The millage that's being proposed right now will require the supermajority vote of 4 out of 5 members, but the budget would only require a majority vote.
Gotcha. But it is 2 different votes, right?
It's 2 different votes, yes.
Right.
And there will be 2 different action items.
And if the majority vote does not occur, what happens?
On the budget,
No, on the,
the supermajority doesn't occur on the millage. You have a proposed millage rate that you've already identified out there that's been noticed to the taxpayers. If the 4 out of 5 supermajority vote did not happen, sorry, if the 4 out of 5 vote did not happen on the millage, then you would have to propose another millage rate until you got an approval. And so depending on what
And if you don't get an approval?
if you don't get any approval at all on the millage rate, you can't come up with a consensus on what that rate's going to be. I'd have to look. I believe it stays at what it was, but I'd have to go back and look at that. I haven't, honestly,
Well, I'd just like to know.
yeah. Yeah.
For clarification on that part of it, we're talking about the actual rate vice a motion to roll the rate back to last year, or is it the same thing?
No, so your rollback rate is one rate, and then when you adopt a millage rate, one of the things they always have you do is they have you adopt a millage rate and then advise as to what the difference is in that versus the rollback rate. The rollback rate is what the millage rate would need to be to collect the same as what you collected last year.
So you're not changing the millage rate when you do that, you're just rolling it back to last year's property valuations, I think.
Oh, no,
You're changing the millage rate. So
Okay,
what
all right.
happens is that with the rollback rate, it's a snapshot. Think of it as almost like a snapshot in time. So you have the property value of what it was last year and last year's millage rate that got you X. Now, the property values have likely increased significantly. So your rollback rate is what rate would you need to come back to get to X?
Got it, okay, no, thank you for that, yeah, no, that's good,
Absolutely.
perfect.
So you'll find out what happens if we can't come to an agreement? You don't have to find out the second,
Yeah, it's by.
but it's on the millage rate, and that's what I mean, I need to know what, as chair of this committee, I need to know what to do.
Yeah, the first thing would be is to try to come to an agreement on some millage rate. So you have the proposed, and if you couldn't get that out of a 4 to 5 vote, as that millage rate changes, so let's say if it were to increase, or no, let me do it the other way. If it were to decrease, if it were to come down, there's a point at which the vote needed would no longer be 4 to 5, it would be 3 to 5. And so if you still couldn't get it at a 3 to 5, then we can find out what would happen after that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Jennifer? Cowan?
No, that's all I have.
Okay. Then we have commission comments, liaison positions and such. Vice Mayor, anything?
Yes, may I ask a question? Who's going to Florida League of Cities Friday?
I am tentative right now, but I'm trying to clear it so I can go.
Okay, so
I'm not
gonna go.
going.
Not going to go?
I'm not
I'm
signed up for
gonna
any
go.
of it, though.
Okay.
Unless something comes up.
I reserved a car or asked for a car, just
Oh.
in case, so we'll probably leave around 7.
Is this a committee meetings?
Yeah,
Aren't you all on committees?
yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I'll let you know today's not Monday, as it turns out.
Yeah, it's
No,
Tuesday.
no problem. The car will be leaving around 7.
All right, okay, I'll get back.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything? I mean, I know a lot of us haven't even been doing anything with our liaisons because of the storm and stuff, so.
It is homecoming week for
Yes.
Dunedin High School. And they did lose a contract on a float that the football team was going to sit on,
Yeah.
stand on, be on. And so they have kind of put out an all-points bulletin trying to find either golf carts or somebody with a flatbed, et cetera. And so I'm monitoring that, and I might reach out to the city to see if we have anything.
I was just saying, do we have a flatbed that we could maybe,
Oh, flatbed?
something like that?
Or pickup trucks or whatever.
I mean, because we had talked about it at once, being in the parade with one of our things, but then it didn't work out. But I knew we had something, some kind of flatbed thing. I just don't know what it is.
I'm sure that we do. I'd have to find
Talking
out
about the
whether we...
homecoming parade that goes from
Right.
essentially the fire station, not even the fire station, the pool to the high school,
Uh-huh. When is homecoming?
Friday.
This Friday. And it's Tuesday, so, yeah.
Do we know the route of that? A couple
Yeah,
times
it
they've
goes-
gone another way. They've gone through the downtown here.
No, they're not doing that. I think that was during COVID. That's when they did that.
No?
But the,
Are
yeah,
we in
the
cars?
route
Because
is,
sometimes we are and sometimes we aren't.
well, I have not got a direct invitation from them.
No, I haven't either, but I get one every year, and today's Tuesday,
And I
and it's
know.
Friday.
Yeah. I was
Right.
only asking because of the response by somebody saying, hey, we'll get the golf carts organized, but
They can
obviously,
do golf carts over there.
obviously
Right,
not,
yeah.
not going down 580, so.
But I'm sorry, John, yeah, to answer your question, actually, it is from basically the fire station to the high school.
Okay.
It's just that little
All right,
drop.
do you want to follow up on that?
can
'Cause,
follow up.
I
We
mean, they might.
don't have a flatbed.
Okay.
A little birdie just
They
told me.
might presume we already know this because we do it every year, but I don't know.
I will reach out, find out, and let everybody know.
Okay, thanks.
And we have a golf cart.
Say what?
We have a golf cart. Yeah, for downtown.
I mean, because really, we could probably find
Economic
somebody with a
development is-
6-seater golf cart that could drive us all in the parade. That way they don't have.
Friday, step off is 5:30.
Yeah, bad news is we might not be back.
It's like 5 o'clock.
We'll be back.
We'll be back, we'll be
Yeah, we'll
back.
be back.
And because maybe we could find a 6-seater golf cart that can take all of us,
Cool,
all of the people that are available, is what I'm saying.
that'd be cool.
You know, but I don't know what they've done. So usually they have some kind of car, and I'm riding in some kind of convertible.
Right.
That's all I know.
Yeah, I will reach out and get back to everybody.
Okay. Anything from you on your?
I don't have anything on my liaisons. Just one quick question. Jennifer, do we have an update on when the elevator out front here is going to be done? I think they had said it was going to be right around this time, and I
Right.
don't know if it's actually officially done.
Yeah, I haven't received an update on where we are. I can find out, let all of you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it just.
I mean, it looks like the build-out is on the ground floor. It looks like it's complete. So
Right.
let me see
It's
if I
just going to
can-
be good when that's functioning, because obviously people come off the parking lot, and if you're handicapped, you got to go all the way around.
Right,
So
yeah.
I'll be very happy when that's functional.
Yeah,
so.
me too.
Well, I mean, we're moving towards substantial completion of the building, and that's a vital component.
Okay, could you let us know
Yeah.
about the elevator though specifically? Because I think one of the guys said it was like right around right now. They should have it done, so.
Right, yes.
Anything on your stuff?
No.
Is Dunedin Cares getting an increased request for food due to the storm, do you know? Be interesting to learn that.
You know, yeah, so Terry reached out a couple of days ago, and I need to get back to her, so I can provide an update.
Okay. For me, I just want to let you know that Visit St. Pete Clearwater has just sent an email out to all the hoteliers and asking them to sign up if they're participating in the FEMA Emergency Lodging Assistance Program, which, by the way, Holiday Inn Express does, which is what I was saying earlier. So we'll probably have a list real quick. It might not all just be Dunedin, but they did this during Irma, especially during Irma because of people not having electricity. So this will be good. I don't know how long it'll take, but I just wanted to let you know that. Trying to think of what else I got going on. Everything else is sort of in limbo. I have a mayor's council lunch tomorrow. But that's basically it. Okay. That's all I have, I think. If nothing else for the good of the order, we are adjourned.